So is somebody else logged in to the Hangout by any chance? Can one of you guys log into the Hangout so I can make sure the audio is working?
If anybody asks, there's a bug with our guest network.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not a, it looks like it's out of focus.
I wonder if you can.
I twisted this and it turned the camera off.
Oh,
I would guess that this whole thing is,
yeah, I don't know. I think it would probably
Microphone.
focus. Maybe it's, I don't know, doesn't look too bad.
yeah, it'd be fine. If we can't get it, that's fine.
There's a bug with our, if people ask about the Wi-Fi. If you're on a Mac in Safari, you have to first log onto the network in either Firefox or Chrome, then go to Safari. You can't start it in Safari. There's a bug with our guest.
Okay.
So if you people ask,
Okay.
just have them log in through Firefox or Chrome first, then go to Safari.
Okay.
I don't think so.
either pull the Teams. How would I find the Hangout?
The Hangout is there's a link on the agenda.
Okay.
Do you have that?
I'm not sure.
It's you can find the agenda either in the team Google group or on the Heck listserv, if you've got an email from that. If anybody else has the agenda open, you can share it with her directly if you want, because it's open to be edited. And since I'm now a Google educator, I know that. I think I might I might try for my Google certified training. What? I might try to get my Google certified training. Awesome. Okay, let me share it with you.
Do you know what the community is?
Team. And when you get to the agenda, there's a place to click on it there's a place to click to be able to join the group. What's your email address?
arnold@gcfc.com.
Okay, you should have an email with it now. Hey, good, how are you?
Oh. Hey. Nice long time no see.
Yeah, no kidding. It's new.
Not much. How's it going?
See it.
Yeah.
Good ride over here.
Not too bad. The worst was trying to get on 69 from Denver Boulevard.
Okay. Yeah.
From 71st to 79th was horrible, but other than that, how about you?
It was a little slow. Is it before September?
That's what one of my friends, she was down Center Grove, and she's like, I'm in a dead stop still. I'm turning around.
Try.
That wasn't me.
Took me an extra 25 minutes.
You got that? Go ahead. I'll see if I can get it. You know, it's my problem. That's the whole. How are you? Wow, this looks so good.
So get something to eat.
I am. Just by yourself, I'm gonna stay away from it. She'll be good. It is a gold day. It's a little scary when you get back, and I know a bunch of it, and a majority of the people in the
From your Google class?
Well,
To Google
no,
Classes?
I worked with John Keller.
Yeah.
He was my supervisor for years, and then Kyle, TLC, I worked with Jeff, and then the few that were going on that sort of stuff.
I want to know each other since forever.
What? I think Kyle and I had a monthly meeting for
Yes.
a while. I think that's what it's been. Yeah. It was a little
What's going
scary.
on? Good seeing you.
Everybody should withdraw.
How's the drive up? It wasn't good for me.
It wasn't terrible.
I live in Indianapolis. It seemed like once I got him with parenting, how about worse?
I got a shot too. Good. All right, so
Yeah.
I need to check the audio.
Just driving slow.
I should turn off my.
No, I don't care if I can hear you. I need you to be able to turn your speakers way up so you can hear me. But is that from yours? But it's not from your microphone, is it? So mute your two microphones. I want to make sure it's not your microphones that are picking up that sound, because I should hear myself really loudly because I'm speaking really loudly right here. How are you, Thomas? It's just delayed. Good.
There's quite a delay, but yes.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Yeah. each elementary school decided. They either put Florida Polynomial.
Hey, welcome everybody who is out in Hangout Land. We will be beginning our meeting in about probably 2 minutes. See that there are 7 viewers on the Hangout. So we will see you in a couple minutes. NBCURL.me/S3PT, all capitalized. PT. Is it editable now? Okay, good. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody in Hangout Land. My name is Robbie Grimes. Thank you for coming today. Please eat. I planned for 50. That's how many people RSVP. Some people clearly decided to stay home and join by Hangout because I think we have probably 10 or 15 people in the Hangout, which is fantastic because that just means I get to take bagels home. I actually am the sponsor for the breakfast because I'm wearing two hats this morning. I'm an e-learning specialist for Wayne Township Schools, but then for about 15 seconds I'm going to be the owner of EdTech Zone, which is a technology consulting company, professional development consulting company that a couple of friends and I created, put together, and have been doing since a very long time ago. Actually, when Evansville started their great big one-to-one program with HP laptop or netbooks, when netbooks were like all the rage, they hired Todd Whitlock and Michelle Alley to come down and work with their e-learning team, which wasn't really an e-learning team at the time. It was kind of a bunch of teachers. It was before ICATS. It was all the great stuff that ICATS does. And we went down there and worked with them. And we were kind of just newbies at it as well. Todd Whitlock had started a one-to-one program in his district in North Davies. And Michelle Alley and I were new at the integration job in Brownsburg and in Center Grove. And so the three of us went down there. He as an administrator, and the two of us as classroom integrators helped them get their project going, and then the able-bodied people that they are took over that project and started the massive amount of greatness that's down there in Evansville now. And now a bunch of them are leading the INDOE, INE Learn team. So that was it was really cool to be a part of that. And I want to say that was 7 or 8, 9 years ago. I don't remember how long ago that was. But anyway, that's where EdTech Zone started, and we have worked with numerous school districts across the state, helping their teachers become 21st century educators. That's really what we do. Helping them with one-to-one projects, helping them with integration, with differentiation, helping them with 21st century assessments, all kinds of those types of things. So I don't want to take more time than what is needed because that's just what we do. There's a link to our website on the agenda if you're interested in that to find out a little bit more about who we are. I know that a couple people even in this room have done some consulting with us. We're a team of educators and administrators who are currently practicing, which tends to sometimes set us apart from other companies who are not currently practicing educators, which makes it a little difficult sometimes. But it also is much more of a benefit because when we send a consultant to a district to work with integration, it's someone who is using that tool right now, whether it be My Big Campus or Google or a learning management system, hey Mary, or any of those types of things. It's someone who's using it right now in a classroom, or an integrator that is working with teachers who are using them right now, not someone who just kind of learned this tool and is now just going out and training on it. Someone who has to keep up with it because they're using it on a regular basis. So that's us. Please enjoy breakfast and eat up because my family probably can't eat that much. So thank you for being here, and I'm excited about the meeting today and what's on the schedule. So very appropriate, Mary, that you would show up now because you're on.
Well, and I'm going to run out real quick. I left my notes and I
okay.
reached the wrong building.
No.
I'm going to grab my iPad.
Not. Hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll go to the next one because you're here till like 11, right?
I am here.
Okay.
Till 11.
We have plenty of time. Don't rush. Couple of the things. Let's jump. The first thing on the agenda really is at 9:30 at E-Days, and that kind of goes along with what Mary was going to talk about from the DOE. So let's go to actually the next one, SAMR, and just start a discussion on SAMR. If you guys don't know what, if this is your first time at Team, this is an integration meeting. Okay, all things integration and technology that way. When I first started in this group, it was the year 2000, and It had been going on for a couple of years before I became a part, and we used to have signs that we used to held up that said "Too Techie." And I know some of you have heard this story before, but those of you who are new, when the conversation got a little beyond, a teacher's knowledge or a little bit more of a teacher's knowledge, we would hold up signs and say, "That's too techie, we're moving on," and we would just stop the conversation and go to something else. So this is all about working in classrooms and working with your staff and integration. We certainly can talk about taking things, but there were a couple of requests for Wi-Fi hotspots and some of those types of things and network stuff. I didn't put it on the agenda just because that's really not the focus. That is more of a focus for the HEC conference and the other groups and also the HEC listserv if you have questions for that type of stuff. So don't be offended if your item didn't get on the agenda. It's just that that's not what we talk about here. This is all about integration and related type topics like that. Now, if your integration and your wireless isn't working, drawing integration, your wireless isn't working, how do you do the song and dance? That's perfectly appropriate, okay? But not what tools do you use to make sure that your hotspots are working well, and how do you walk around and check those, and strength and coverage and all that stuff. So for right now, let's jump to SAMR and start a discussion on SAMR and how you're using it, and if you're using it, or if you don't even know what it is. The floor is open.
Well, I'll start. I know some other videos on YouTube that I'm putting in the notes section that are actually Ruben Pentadura himself talking about the SAMR model and applying it in the classroom. So it's nice to see it straight from the source.
Excellent. Thank you.
We started with Canvas this year, and we've introduced the term of SAMR and talked to teachers about it. But I think because we're new with our learning management system, we're still kind of at the S level. And I would like to know if anybody has any ideas of how to help teachers get to the other end.
Small steps. Most people, when they're introduced to it, I found automatically want to be in the MMR. And that's where they usually fail if they're not real strong in technology. Starting lower and taking those steps, and then pushing that next, going that next step to get it to, augmentation, step substitution.
That's my problem with SAMR, I think, and I know I'm in the minority there. I think it's a cool model. It's really simple to understand, but the problem with it is that it's 4 levels. I think teachers are so focused on 4-level evaluation, and that's why we equate M&R with this is, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and I'm highly effective, right? And
that's the A and the good.
I thought when I was in the classroom, I was really techy, and second graders were constantly doing cool things. And I think maybe we got into the R column, one really big lesson, like for the year, and I know what I'm doing. And I think that the problem there is it's hard to explain that not every lesson requires you to redefine. Sometimes just augmenting a lesson and making it more productive for your students is fine. And sometimes you don't need technology, and what you're doing already is effective. So I struggle with it. I think I personally prefer TPAC more than SAMR when it comes to adopting a model, I guess, but TPAC is really hard to explain.
Yes.
So it's both sides. Someone that understands the model, I feel like TPAC makes more sense, but then explaining a 3-circle Venn diagram and thinking about what does that actually look like in the classroom is just really hard to explain. So I don't know. I think there are some downfalls that can be accounted for when you're talking about SAMR. It's just something to keep in mind, and that every time you're talking, it's like reminding them, think about your lesson objectives, and you don't need to redefine your vocabulary lesson. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to redefine everything.
But this is best for the student.
Right.
Because some kids, you know, in knowing math facts, flashcards aren't going to work, and getting on a computer is going to help them learn their math facts. But does every single person in your room need to be on that same website? There's where I think you get into that differentiation and what is best for that student to learn that concept. Is it technology? Yes, or maybe no. It's not.
I know for some of our teachers, there's been some relief in knowing that, and looking at it more with Carl Hooker's Summer Swimming Pool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that article, but knowing that it's okay to kind of wade in that water and come in and out again based on the purpose of what the lesson objective is or the outcome, what you want your students to do. And I think with the latter model, I think they were feeling like they had to keep continuing to increase up this ladder to meet this expectation. And when they realized, oh, it's okay for me to get out of the pool sometimes and walk around or dip my toes back in, or knowing that if I do venture into the deep end, I'm going to not be alone because my students are going to be there too. And you've got the support of your coaches and your administrators. I know that kind of using that model instead a little bit in reference to Samers, just given a little bit of, just made them feel a little more relaxed. They don't have to climb up this expectation ladder almost and be there all the time.
We've had some successful teachers explaining it as, you know, the upper levels are where you go on vacation. You kind of live at S and A. We hope, you know, S and start to live a little more in A, but you go on vacation and you get up above that line. So that's been a good visual for some of our, or good idea for some of our teachers. And also just taking one single thing. So we want to take perhaps a spelling assignment. So here's what it would look like at S, here's what it would look like at M, here's what it would look like at R for you, and just showing them that progression and the differentiation along the way.
I think it is important to provide some nuance when you're talking about that model, just because of that tendency to categorize everything like that. You've probably all seen the three circles that categorize apps as being a certain level of Bloom's taxonomy or a certain level of SAMR. And I get a little bit twitchy on some of that, but really it's how you're using those apps with the students is what really matters. So I try to, I don't want anything that sounds like a cookbook, like, oh, if you're here, then you're an S. So that's something we use SAMR at Warren, but I try to temper its simplicity with a little bit of nuance.
We've tried to do the same thing at Wayne. We kind of implemented SAMR, but really didn't tell the teachers we were doing that. We kind of decided, okay, we're going to push them to go toward the upper levels of that, but it becomes an evaluative piece is what ends up happening. And teachers put that on themselves. It doesn't become that. Teachers put that on themselves, and they think, oh, I have to be at this upper level, and when I have an observation, I have to be at that upper level, or I'm not going to be that. And I mean, anything just like that, when you put it on that scale, people are going to put A, B, C, D, F on it too. Just like they do when you do a non-graded type situation. Parents want to know, did my kid get an A, B, C, D, or F? Well, the teachers want to know, which one of those am I in? And which one is the better one? And how can I get better? And so we decided not to really advertise that's what we were doing, but we kind of used that in TPAC as a guideline for us as we were designing professional development to kind of push them toward those upper levels and say, okay, here's what you're working on, but you're doing the same thing here as we're doing here without technology. What else could we do to enrich and enhance this lesson to make this lesson better? So we're really saying, how can we go up the ladder without saying, how can we go up the ladder? And pushing them toward those areas of augmentation and redefinition.
I had a conversation with a retired teacher who subs in our district, and he doesn't know the computers. And he was asking me about SAMR, and I'm like, well, let's think about it from the perspective you taught him. Like, you had an overhead projector in your room, right? And he's like, well, yeah. Like, well, how did you use it? He's like, well, we put notes on it. I'm like, okay, so that's substitute. You're taking the textbook and you're making slides of notes. Like, did you do other things with your overhead? Well, yeah, the kids would use it. Okay, so now we're augmenting. We're changing a little bit. We're getting kids involved. Like, and I'm sure you had those really cool slides where you could layer things, and you could move things around, and the kids could see things working, because it's not something you can do with a book. So we're moving up to the higher end of how things can change, and it was an overhead projector. And it's like now we're using these things online, which are modifying and redefining how we approach education in our classrooms the same way you use that overhead projector with those cool little tools that your publishers would send you. It wasn't the same static notes. And he's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it's just a different tool that does something a little differently for you. He really appreciated that because he had no clue. He didn't get it at all. But when I showed him that he had already been doing things like that in his classroom for years, and he just didn't realize it. Now we're just switching the mode. It's now an online tool instead of using your overhead projector.
Well, how many things do we know our teachers are already doing? We're just now putting a title to it. That's also kind of what happens here in this situation. I mean, teachers are already doing like 4 blocks method of reading and on all of those types of things. They're already doing those things. It's just now that you have a name for it and somebody's making a lot of money because they called it something. Kind of like that. Somebody, well, this gentleman put SAMR together, and a lot of teachers were doing this thing. But now there's kind of like a focus or a plan for some definition of what it is you're doing.
In our school district, kind of what he touched on, we're spending a lot of time of building a district-wide initiative with SAMR, but we want to roll it out effectively to make sure that teachers have a complete understanding. We're spending a lot of time talking about those teachers that are not tech-savvy and making them realize you're already doing this. So I've already been working on charts to say, you're already doing this in your classrooms, that already is substitution, this already is augmentation. Because I don't want them to freak out. I want them to have that confidence that they're already doing those things.
Other conversations about SAMR? Anybody else using it in different ways?
Has anybody had any success with getting administrators to sort of talk about those kind of levels or those kind of more powerful uses? Or is that all a training department kind of?
We trained our administrators in what it was. We let our administrators know what it is. But we didn't go to the next step and say, we're adopting this. Because we didn't want our administrators thinking, this is a policy now, or this is something we're really going to follow. But we wanted them to be aware of it so that when we talked about SAMR, they would be familiar with the vocabulary and what those 4 different levels were. And when we talked about augmentation, what is that? And redefinition, what is that? What's that look like in a classroom? And gave some examples of what that looked like. Otherwise, we haven't really had them take the leadership role there in that.
Our administrators go through all the training that our teachers go through. So they're going through the processes of all those things. And one of our administrators teaches a class too, so he uses it. Although we haven't pushed SAMR out there, I think we're doing steps along the way to try to get teachers there one thing at a time. So they're living it.
All right. If you are just joining us on the Hangout, or if you're just joining us in here, go ahead and get logged in, and please make sure that you fill out the attendance sheet that is at the top of the page. There's an attendance sheet listed right here. There also is a question on there. I think I added a question that said, "How long have you been in team?" Just to kind of see how we've grown over time. It's a very impromptu, informal group. There really isn't an organization other than a couple people have gotten together and been the leaders of it through the last 10 plus years. And so they're just, go ahead and fill out the attendance sheet. And then also I've made a link to the spreadsheet itself so you guys can get in and see who's here. If you reached out to someone and were speaking to someone here in the room and you wondered who they are, you can always come back to this agenda and get to the list of names of people who were here. And get in contact with them. So since we're done with that SAMR discussion, we jumped over the E-Days, Mary, because that was the first. I put that right after you because I figured your discussion may touch on E-Days or things like that. So we just jumped over that and went to the SAMR model. So if you want to come up and take over a little bit and facilitate, that would be fantastic.
All right. Hi. Sorry, I'm late. Sorry for the delay. I'm like one of the closest people here, and I went to the wrong building. Hi, John. So anyway, apparently I'm excited about the Hoosier Student Digital Leadership Showcase, which will be at Noblesville West in a couple of months. So I think I had Noblesville West on the brain. So I just wanted to touch on a few things that we have going on with Office of Learning. I am Mary Carnahan. I've met a lot of you, a lot of familiar faces, but I'm an e-learning resource specialist with the Department of Education. I've been around for a long time. The first thing that we have coming up that we just like formally, officially announced all the dates is our summer e-learning conferences. Those will start maybe the 1st of June, 2nd of June. We have 28 days in June and July at 24 different locations. So we're really excited to have been able to grant those 28 or those 24 locations some money to host conferences. And I know that there were some conference hosts here in this room, so I'm sure y'all are gearing up for your sessions this summer. So a lot of those registrations are already open. A lot of those conferences have sites up, so just all of this information can be found on our website. The next thing is on my list is the Hoosier Student Digital Leadership Group, and then the showcase and conference that is coming up. If you haven't familiarized yourself with that group, please take a look at that on our website. That's for student technology groups. And that conference is going to be, there will be 3 different ways that you can participate in that as a learning and networking opportunity by submitting a showcase application for table space and then to present a breakout session. So lots of different opportunities. So you can participate in just the HSDL program itself with a student group, or you can attend and participate in that conference and showcase. We're really looking forward to that. And questions about that can be directed to Michelle Green. She's been behind this since before she even got to the department. She's been excited about this opportunity. We are just a couple weeks into our spring. It doesn't seem like spring, but it is our spring book club. We're reading Don Wettrick's Pure Genius. Don is a teacher here in Noblesville School, so we're excited to be reading that book. It's not too late to jump into that conversation. Digital Learning Day / month. Usually Digital Learning Day is in February. They moved it back to March this year. So we still did our blog. We've been doing our blog in the month of February, so that will be finished here in 2 days. We've had some great posts in there. Take a look at the site to see what you may have missed and share that with your staff. And then we will be celebrating Digital Learning Day on March 13th. We'll be doing a drop and tweet Twitter thing where you can reflect on your experience with educational technology. We've been having, Michelle Green has been organizing geek outs, and I believe she'll be having 5 geek outs on the day of Digital Learning Day, March 13th. So lots to participate in that. Oh, also we've been doing a Pinterest Pinner of the Week and a Digital Content Rockstar each week, and I believe that started last week or the week before, so that will continue. Saturday, March 7th, so next Saturday is our Coach On Conference. I'm sure that some of you are already planning on participating in that, but if you don't know about that, please take a look at the Coach community in Google. If you're not a part of that, please join that community. It's a great resource. And consider, if you don't have any plans yet for next Saturday, we'll be having the Coach On Conference at Danville High School next Saturday, like maybe 9 to 3. I'm not sure the exact time off the top of my head. Okay. So that is a great opportunity. And then segueing into the next topic of conversation, we have the virtual option for inclement weather. and also the Flex Pilot. Two totally different things that I think get confused, and I get them confused in my mind too, so I'm gonna read off of my notes so that I don't mix them up. The virtual option for inclement weather, that application will be open through May 1st of this year. That is where districts can use a digital learning day, an e-learning day, on a makeup day or for makeup hours, or it can be used on the actual snow day, which is a much heavier lift because you have to have all the pieces in place to be able to support your free and reduced lunch kids, your special needs kids, your IEP kids, all of that. So that is the virtual option for inclement weather. That is an ongoing application, so you can apply for that anytime between now and May 1st. So you can use it for makeup time, like if you want to do an e-learning day on a Saturday in April, then you can apply for that and utilize that for a makeup day. The Flex Pilot, the application is now open for that. That is, the intention is not to prep for inclement weather days. The intention with that is if a school district is really trying to look at differences in scheduling their time, learning differently for different populations. I think some schools are only doing them at certain, like they're only doing it for their secondary kids because they haven't found the best way to do it with their elementary kids, or maybe the device options aren't there. They have more kids without devices at the elementary, whatever the reasoning is. That it doesn't have to be district-wide. It can be for specific populations, levels of kids. And again, that is designed to support schools interested in exploring innovative approaches to school schedules by leveraging e-learning options. And that is everything on my list that I just rattled through really quickly. Does anybody have any questions that I may or may not be able to answer? Hi, Dave.
I just want to say that Unconference was awesome last year, and I'm very sad that I cannot go this year.
It was incredible.
If you haven't been, or you did go, it's a great opportunity to talk and get great ideas and share. It was awesome. It was really good.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the registration to see how many we have coming, but definitely the more that are there, definitely the better, richer conversation we'll be able to have. So definitely, if you don't have plans, it'll be a good time. Hang out in Danville. Anything else? Oh, that makes me feel bad. I was worried that I was going to like be barraged with hard questions that I was going to say. I'm going to call Candace and let Candace answer that question. Okay. Well, I will be around until about 11 when I get to go get a crown. So I will be around if anybody has any questions.
No, but the crown for your teeth, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, crown for my teeth. Yeah. And it'd be much better to get a tiara crown. That'd be a lot less painful. But anyway, okay.
All right. The next item on the agenda was E-Days. And hopefully Mary can give a little bit of information if anybody has questions about that particular thing. But what, if anything, is anybody doing with E-Days? I mean, certainly they could be used for inclement weather, but some of you may be using them just in your schedule. What questions do you have? What are you doing with E-Days, and how's that working?
Okay, I'll go. This is our second year for E-Days, but in the first year we were one-to-one at the high school, and so we had E-Days just for the high school. This year we had, and that was, we started out, we asked for 8, and we used 6 normal. 2 were canceled because of the snow and craziness, and then, but then were kind of reused as E-Day makeup days, but they didn't get to be used for professional development. Our E-Days are all professional development. All the professional development is for our teachers, by our teachers, what they want. We have a group of about 25 teachers that determine what we're going to offer. And I think I scared some people off because when they say, how about this session, I go, great, can you run that session? And so they're getting a little scared of me. But it's been a great option. We do a little bit of like 3 45-minute sessions of professional development that they get to choose from a menu of options, just like a little mini conference. Then they do an hour and a half of PLC time, an hour for lunch, probably the most valuable time of the day. Teachers never get to go out to lunch and sit and talk for an hour. And then in the afternoon, they have office hours, so they can continue to meet with their teams or their PLCs or whoever they want to meet with, but they also have to be available for the students. We needed that time for professional development going one-to-one. It was really eye-opening for our students. Even our highest achieving students had trouble managing their time in the beginning. So it's a great little practice run for them. You think you're going to go to college, guess how much free time you have in college. How are you going to manage there? So that was great for them. It was great for our teachers because it forced them into our learning management system the first month of school. You have to have an assignment posted for that e-learning day, and so it created this need for them to learn our learning management system from the very beginning. We're in our second year of that. We've added the middle schools. They chose only half e-learning day, so the students come until lunch, and then they're dismissed after lunch. It only gives our staff 2 hours of professional development. Personally, I don't think it's enough time, but that's what they chose, what the administration chose and felt comfortable with for their students at that level. It's been invaluable experience because it's given our teachers time. Isn't that what they need? They just need time. A lot of them know what they want to do. They know what they want to integrate. They know how they want technology to work in their classroom. They just need the time to work on it. And so that has been very good for us.
What's been the feedback from the parents and the community?
At first, it was, we did a lot of preparation for our parents. When we were going one-to-one, we had 2 parent nights to include all of that information, and it also included the e-learning day information. I went around to every business in Noblesville that has free Wi-Fi and gave them a flyer the week before and said, this is what we're doing. You might see students in your business during that day. This is what we expect of our students. As a community, let's help to teach our students the way to act when you go and use somebody's free Wi-Fi. How do you act? And please let us know. We've had no negative feedback from our local businesses, and I know our students are out there because we go to lunch and we see students working together at Panera or Starbucks or wherever. So, I mean, at first there were a few parents, and mostly the complaints were if my kid has AP classes on that day, we're block schedule at the high school. So it's a crapshoot as to which day you're going to get. Are you going to get your black day or your gold day classes? If they had all AP classes on that day, it was way too much work. If they had, some easier elective classes, they did not have enough work to do. So it was, that was literally the feedback was, it was right down the line. It was very much dependent on their classes. And it did take our teachers a couple days to kind of figure out a balance on the workloads. How much is too much? What can we expect from our students? But I think now there hasn't been anything from parents in a long time. I think that they understand the opportunity that we're providing our students, and we're really challenging our students to go out into the community and do things on those days. Instead of just, completing an online assignment, that there's a lot more that we're trying to get them to do, give them different experiences, go interview somebody about a topic or things like that, go shadow somebody. So it's an opportunity for those kids to get some different experiences, and I think for the most part, our parents understand this. They're allowed to come to school. If the parents don't trust them at home or they did not complete their assignments the previous e-learning day, they must come to school. And our special ed assistants run, they oversee those students that do come to school. Some choose to come. Maybe if they go to JRO, like the Career Center that we're affiliated with in Washington Township, if they don't have transportation, they'll come in the morning, work in the morning, and then go to JRO Light for those courses. But it's very few. At most, I think the highest day that we had was 60 students, and we have 2,700 students in the high school. So, a few do, and that's I think probably more comforting to parents that like, well, if you don't trust them at home, send them to school, and then they kind of usually back off. But it's been great. Yes.
Have any of your elementary schools toyed with trying to do something? Because I mean, for professional development, that is a really great way to get people together, and it seems like elementary teachers without.
I know that there are other districts that do. I kind of put that, we're not one-to-one in our elementaries, and that's one of the kind of requirements is that every student needs to be able to have a device.
So are you're BYOD, or are you give out devices?
6 through 12, we are iPad.
Okay.
Yes, one-to-one. We distribute devices to all of those students. So I think that is, I don't know if Marie knows, but I think that is one of the requirements that every student has to have a device, whether it's you've issued or you're BYOD, but can provide devices to those who don't. I think that's one of the requirements there.
And I was just trying to confirm that with Candace. What it looks like for the Flex Pilot, which is what you guys are doing with the PD days, you do have to be one-to-one.
Okay. That's
For the virtual option for inclement weather, you don't, but you need to know that your kids have access. So they might not be one-to-one, but you might know that 99% of your kids have a laptop or an iPad or something that helps.
I thought there was another question over there.
I was going to ask you later, but I can ask you now.
Oh, okay.
How did you work out transportation issues if you had people who wanted to come to school?
The buses still run.
They ran the whole route?
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a big deal last year because our middle schools and high schools are on the same route, and our middle schools were still going to school. So, and then it's just continued this year, and I honestly don't know if they've altered their routes or anything on those days, but I don't think that they have because it's still middle school, high school, so there might be some kids that they drop off at the middle schools and then come and drop off at high school. So it's not, we're not saving any money there, and that was never the intention. It's just, it's a day that would have been in our schedule anyway. The buses still run like we have school.
How do you meet all your IEP?
On those days, the VIATs and life skills, so moderate and severe come to school. And they are trying to do more of their community experiences on those days. Now we do have a few of I would say a couple of them are moderate, but they are aware enough to know that other kids aren't going to school, and so they've done online work. They've worked it out with their parents that they can do their work online and stay home on those days. But I think other schools do a little bit more to write it in their IEP, an understanding of what's to happen on those days for those kids, but we choose to have them come to school.
Anything else about E-Days? No?
And all of the requirements for us are on the website. Take a look, and both the Flex pilot and the virtual option are spelled out pretty clearly. Any questions, contact Candace. She is the one with all the answers. So.
As soon as I can get connected to the internet,
Yeah, I'm having difficulty here too.
Really right here. ISTE's Online Learning Network, we put on a webinar earlier this year on e-learning days, snow days, and we brought together Holly Software from Yorktown, who was representing Indiana, and she has a lot of cool things with elementary. And then there were, we had some people from Texas and then from New Jersey kind of share some ideas as well. And there were some really cool thoughts there. So if you are interested in that, I'm going to share the link to the presentation for that recording.
Who else is having problems with the internet? Okay. Well, we are oddly ahead of time. So about 9:45. We have a break scheduled at 10:30. Let's look at the LMS discussion, and then we'll take a break after that. What I wanted to do was take a look at this attendance sheet and see what was going on here as far as the LMS was concerned. Someone said the question that I got was, which LMSs are you using? Is everybody using in this group? And so you can, if you click on at the top of the agenda and take a look at who's here, see who's here and visiting virtually, you can take a look at that team attendance sheet and see how many people are using which items. Looks like a whole lot of My Big Campus and Blackboard. Couple Canvas and a couple Moodle. Oh, is that just a bunch of people from Part Tutor? For Blackboard? Okay. Looks like we got a monopoly here. Okay, so so what are you using and why you like it?
My Big Campus is free.
My Big Campus is free?
No, I did. Some of you, we're running our virtual school through My Big Campus, and if any of you are interested in, if you have My Big Campus and you're interested in how do you run an online course or maybe E-Days, there are some major changes that we're betaing, is that a word? Right now with My Big Campus that are really neat as far as automatic pacing, organizing something as a course. Like right now you have schoolworks and you assign each one, but you can create a course and put schoolworks in and say whenever a student is enrolled, assignment 1 is due 4 days after being added to the group, and then assignment 7 is due 12 days after being assigned to the group, and it automatically assigns it and gives them a guide for pacing and fills their calendar, lets them know on the front page of their group how much of the course they finished and stuff. And that's just one of them. There are a lot of really neat changes that made me squeal, typical when I saw it. But if any of you are interested in that, I'd be happy to show some of it.
I'd like to see that.
You'd like to see that? You have a winner.
There's some cool stuff. We'll find each other.
I have several teachers that are getting pretty savvy with it, but now they're ready for the advanced stuff, and they want to do the advanced stuff, and I can't find a lot of resource out there for that. We're utilizing My Big Campus and Google Classroom together. We're using them simultaneously, but I'm sure My Big Campus does more than I've.
Well, some of this is not, it's not released yet. But there's some cool stuff. So yeah, certainly.
We are currently on My Big Campus, but found teachers were looking for more, so we are currently shopping. We're between Canvas and Blackboard right now. Blackboard's new Learn 2015 interface is pretty slick. As far as we're concerned, it's caught up with the usability of Canvas. It still has the robustness that Blackboard's always had. So we hope to make a decision shortly.
We're agreeing with that assessment of the new Blackboard interface too. Pieces of it are.
Is it the same price?
It's much cheaper
Blackboard is
than what it has been in the past.
If you're truly college prep, which one of these should you have? Is there one that's touting?
IU, Purdue, IUPUI, Butler, Marion are all Canvas.
My daughter goes to Purdue and uses one.
They're transitioning away from Blackboard. Yeah.
Canvas, we just started using it this year and it's been phenomenal. Our teachers find it really user-friendly. I can't say enough about it. It's just been great.
I've used Ultra in the classroom pretty regularly. I've designed online classes on 2 platforms. And Canvas far and away was better, in my opinion, than Blackboard and my big Canvas. It just, functionality, the ease of use, kids get on, they know what to do. It's been a good experience.
And we had my big campus previously, and we didn't have a lot of teacher buy-in because it was difficult for them to use. And with Canvas, we have everybody on and at least posting calendars for the kids.
And from a direct, from the administrative role, the folks at Canvas are awesome because they're really like a partner with us. We've worked with Blackboard with some other products, and we didn't really like working with them. We didn't really get much support. So from a support side and a customer relationship perspective, there's no difference between the two. Canvas is like a partner with us, whereas Blackboard was kind of like, we were a nuisance to them. So that kind of, played a role in our decision too.
We're also transitioning Canvas down into the elementary. Like right now, our high school and middle school students use it, but I have first grade kids that are in there posting and discussions, replying. So when you look at usability, it really is. It can be very friendly even for your elementary kiddos too, based on how teachers go about designing their courses.
We're shopping around. We're preparing to go one-to-one in the fall at our high school with our first one-to-one program in Greenfield. And right now, it just depends on the teacher. They're kind of exploring what they want to use. We have some LCW and Canvas. We have people who use Classroom. We have people who use a strong push in Moodle because we've had a pretty stable server and some teachers who take an initiative to kind of train their peers. So from our perspective, we're saying it's free right now. We're using what's free. So how would you sell like Canvas or Blackboard as you have to pay for this if we're okay with what we're doing? Do you have features that you are aware of versus Moodle? I saw a few Moodle users on here.
We were Moodle before we went one-to-one. So we had one-to-one in science and English, and they were heavy Moodle users. And that's honestly why we had this little transition period where we were looking at My Big Campus, and some of those Moodle teachers were looking at My Big Campus and kept going, but it doesn't do this, but it doesn't do this. But for me, as the instructional coach that's supposed to be supporting them, the integration, like the ease of use for Moodle is not, you have to be tech savvy to really use Moodle, right? You have to be tech savvy. So when you're going campus wide and you have 150 teachers that you have to support and they all have to be in this product, I was scared to death to try to use Moodle with some of my teachers that don't even know where the escape key is on their keyboard.
I hear you.
I think when we all, you all know that I'm My Big Campus, and that's what I'm going to say is the best. If you're Canvas, you're going to say, really, it's how you're using the tool. I think they all have benefits, and ultimately, we're all doing the similar things. I think a couple of things are important. First of all, get used to the same thing. I think that's huge.
Yes.
It's going to help you with providing online professional development. It's going to help. I think it's going to make your life easier when you're modeling things to have one environment.
Yes.
But then also with something to really look at when you're comparing LMSs is the LTI, the interoperability. A lot of content now that, because as we move away from textbooks and start buying online content and that kind of stuff, a lot of them will use what's called common cartridge, which basically means that if you're a common cartridge LMS, then any common cartridge content tool you can pull in. So I know Canvas does a good job of that. MyBig Campus does. That's why when, I don't know a whole lot about Canvas, but like when you're in MyBig Campus library, that's why you can pull in next sector resources. That's why you can get the NBC Learn videos. It's because they follow the same interoperability standards as those tools. So that's definitely something to look at when you're looking at an LMS, and something that you usually don't get from many free ones is that ability to put everything in one place. So.
The one thing that helped a lot of our teachers when they made the decision was Canvas is free for teachers. Hey, you can go sign up and get all the features of Canvas for free, and it doesn't matter, you can use it forever, they don't care. And what was really nice was the teachers who were in their building, I know Chris has built several things in there, was that if whatever the district went with, you can download everything you have and put it wherever you go. So the decision to move to either Blackboard or wherever, Canvas was like, it's your stuff, we don't want it. You can download and move it wherever. So that was really nice to know that if we didn't go to Canvas, we were free to take our stuff and go wherever we wanted with it, because they are compliant with all of those interoperability standards. So it was a really fun journey through that. So if you've got teachers that are curious and just want to see the free for teachers route is incredible today. So
I would also say look at the devices. We don't want to go that route, but we use Blackboard and it's not that user friendly with it. So just make sure that there's no.
Follow up to the person who was saying they used Canvas, the free version of Canvas. Anybody else out there? A lot of their teachers using the free Canvas, which has some limitations.
I know Lafayette Schools has some using, I think where they're one-to-one, they're paid, but then they have other teachers using the free version. Rita Schultz is the contact person there, that I think that would be very helpful with a large group still using the free version.
And Michelle's absolutely right. There's a lot of rubrics out there that can help you evaluate, what's best for your environment. But Michelle's right. You got to pick one thing and go with it, because we have people that want to use. Apple wants you to use iTunes U, Google wants you to use Classroom, the state wants you to use MyBigCamp. There's all these different places. You have to pick one thing and go with it, and that's what we did. We picked Canvas and just went. You just have to pick one and go with it, because people will be all over the place if you don't. And I would look at some of those rubrics that are out there to help you make that decision. They'll have all the different factors that you can look at because it's a huge decision. There's a lot of factors to consider.
I think one of the things I struggle with right now is the fact that there are at least 3 or 4 ways to do the same thing. It's different software. And so people get hung up on, okay, I'm using Skyward to do this. I'm using MyBig Campus to do this. I'm doing this with Schoology. I'm going, well, and it's all true. And what I find is they're very good at this, terrible at that. But it's a struggle to get it contained. Yeah, it'd be great if we all started on the same thing, the same page, the same day, but we didn't.
So how do you give your teachers latitude who want to be creative and try something different or something? Like if we're using our LMS system, but they still want to use the Google Calendar or a different piece.
Well, you can embed a Google Calendar in a Canvas page.
You can also subscribe to.
Yes, you can also take your Canvas calendar and link it to a Google Calendar.
It's about aligning your professional development.
Yeah.
It's what you're doing with it too. It's just trying to get things in.
We say the LMS is like the landing page for everything else that they want to do. We don't constrict them to, you must stay in Canvas, but they must have a place that they can go and find all the information to wherever else they need to go.
For us, we have a selected LMS, and that's what our administration uses, and that's kind of with top down. That's how we've trained, and that's what most will use. We're not policing. If someone wants to use the free version of Canvas, we're not, going to the room and saying, no, we are My Big Campus,
We have a big, a lot of questions from our teachers regarding Google Classroom and our LMS. And yes, we're My Big Campus, but LMS is really what it is. It doesn't really matter. And when we have asked Google about that, they say that they're not an LMS in any way. And they don't want to be an LMS because there are other tools out there that do that. And so what we've told our teachers is that, if you're trying to compare these two, yes, they do some of the some similar things, but they are very exclusive in some things as well. And what we tell them is that our LMS is our content hub, and Google Classroom is the productivity hub, where they can get work done. But can you do work in your LMS? Yes. And can you have a discussion in Google Classroom? Yes. However, look at what your workflow is as an educator. What works best for you for students to show you what they know? And in doing that what works best for you as the facilitator of that learning will dictate which tool you're going to use, whether it be your LMS or whether it be Google Classroom or any of the other tools that are out there and available. We try to push our teachers into the LMS and Google Classroom and not something else, so that we're not having to diversify ourselves too much.
Well,
and
that's
having
what
to.
I was getting ready to say, like, we're not policing it, but at the same time, if a teacher calls me and said, I have some questions about this free version of Canvas, I'll be like, well, good luck Googling it, because we don't support that. So we support one and we don't.
Right, because I wouldn't be able to support Canvas. I wouldn't be able to, because I don't know anything about it. And so if our teachers come and ask us those things, yeah, we'll just say, look, and same way with like iPads. Our teachers bring iPads in. We don't have any iPads in our district. But we tell them that's a BYOD device. I will help you get it connected to our network. Beyond that, I can't really help you with it. Even though I could, because clearly I've got some Macs around me. I could help them, and typically I sometimes will to an extent. But I'm not going to make that a main part of my job to find something else that we haven't really kind of honed in on. There are other things, like when you get into polling tools and Web 2.0 tools, by all means, I'll do some research on all kinds of those. But when it comes to how are you getting delivering content to your student, it's through the LMS. This is what our school has decided we're going to use. If you want to use something different, that's really kind of on you as the teacher. I can support you in many ways with My Big Campus because that's what we support, but otherwise you have to find some other way to get that support.
I feel like we'll get our claws out when we start talking about LMS.
It's very territorial, isn't it? Yeah.
I think because we snuck in our LMS. We started.
How dare you?
Sneaky. We just kind of, there was a rumor that was available, and we had a few workshops that we don't have a great system by which to roll things like that out. So, I've got people using that. That's why I've got people also using Schoology, and I've got people using Google Classroom. But the thing is, I get all these misguided ideas. They've heard, and so they don't even try, and so they won't. And where'd you hear that at? I had my curriculum director tell me, well, I don't want to use My Big Campus, for example, because once you put a document in there, you can't use it or get it out. Really, you heard that? Yeah.
That's how we use the LMS, to put things away, to never see them or access them again.
As a corporation that's trying to figure out which way we want to go, we've got Moodle users, but of course, My Big Campus, the price is so appealing. It's very overwhelming to try to figure out, at this point, I feel like we're a little bit behind the game, but listening to all your conversations, it's like we've got to streamline. And our science department at our high school loves Moodle. They love it.
Well, it's because it's a science department too.
Right. Oh,
I'm a science teacher. We think that way. Cool. I loved Moodle when we had it at Brownsburg.
Yeah.
However, for the everyday teacher, Moodle is not user-friendly.
No, it's not. And so, what I hear you all saying is get everybody on the same page. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Moodle is not that page that we need to be on. It's too much.
And it's really hard because you're never going to get everybody to agree.
Oh,
So.
just
yeah,
saying,
well,
we only
we
pick
know
one.
what we don't want.
Yeah.
We know what we don't want. We agree on that.
If you, if you're considering Canvas, bring some of your science teachers to visit our science teachers because they were Moodle users.
Yeah.
And have them talk to them and, ask them the questions. How did they make that transition? What were the bumps in the road? Because teachers don't trust anybody but other teachers that have been there.
Right. Right. Well, and I hesitate because we heard the whole mystical that Canvas is expensive. That is a huge, right there, dollars dictate a lot. Google Classroom, UPO. I mean, it fits the budget really nicely, but my big campus fits the budget. But it's just where I think trying to sell what's best for kids, what's best for teachers, and that science department is huge.
Well,
so we may take.
There's a lot of fear that because the percent of users out there on something like that, and you spend the money, the fear is it won't get used, and we're spending the money. So then I hear, okay, well, let's make everybody. You must use the gradebook in Canvas. You must use that so that you get at least that kind of buy-in. But then they have to transfer it to Skyward. Yeah, and so I fear how we get everybody to buy in.
Yeah.
It's not like we make them buy in because it's great, they can't ignore it.
I see on attendance Kyle from Zionsville here. Miss Kyle, tell us what you guys are going through.
All right.
I live in your school district.
This is our first year with Canvas. This is my first year at Zionsville. And Zionsville went from Angel to Learn. They hated Learn. And so from there, they said, this isn't user-friendly. This is something that we need to look at as a district. They checked out Canvas. The teachers were impressed with it. And just as the other Canvas users said, the teachers really love Canvas. We have teachers using it from kindergarten to 12th grade. I've been working with all our elementary teachers on creating possible E-days if that were to come up. It obviously looks different at an elementary level than it's going to look at my AP biology classes, but it is very user-friendly and it is adaptable based on your content and grade level. The kids have gotten used to it. They love it. We had 2 parent tech nights this week where we spent time showing the parents how to create parent accounts so they can use that LMS to kind of see what the kids are doing. One of the things that our community has a lot of buy-in on what's going on in our district, and they wanted that consistency. They didn't want, if I've got a first grader and I've got a middle school student and a senior, I don't want to try to find out what their homework was, to have to know what Moodle is, and knowing Google Classrooms and knowing Canvas. They wanted to go to one place to be able to find all that content, and that was another reason as a district we said, after evaluating, using the rubrics, going through all of it, this is the best product for our district. And we've spent a lot of time professional development with the students, staff, and to make sure that it's something that is useful.
What did that time look like?
Well, some of it was pre-bind me. I started in June. We spent all last summer offering workshops showing teachers how to transfer their content from Blackboard or Learn over to Canvas, how to develop content within there. One of our pushes is authentic learning within the LMS, not just, oh, here's all our worksheets that we've posted in there, or just for an E-day at the middle school, or just have them watch videos all day. But really, what does that look like as an LMS in our classrooms? So we spent all summer doing that, and continuing throughout. That's a major focus this whole school year, working with teachers during their E-days at the middle schools, working with them before school and tech tidbit live sessions I have. And so it really depends on the building as far as what their goals are, where they're at. Our middle schools have been one-to-one for quite some time. Our high school is at one-to-one for the first time this year. And so a lot of that PD is developed. Our kids now have devices. What does that look like? How does that change the way I teach? Our elementaries are not one-to-one. And so what does an LMS look like when the kids don't have devices in front of them all the time. And all our elementaries, our teachers are great about finding grants. And one classroom may have 5 Chromebooks, another classroom may have 10 iPads, another classroom may have 2 ancient desktops sitting on the back counter. And so working with them with the tools that they have available to them, what that looks like. So it really depends.
And you're on their 3rd LMS in 3 years, right?
Yes. And the reason, and
I didn't bring that up.
And I don't recall you being at our parent tech day. But one of the things that we explained to our community was the reason why we were really forced from moving from Angel to Learn when Blackboard purchased it. And then when we were forced, and they told the district, look, you're going to love Learn. This is something that's very easy to use. It's going to meet all your needs. And it didn't. And at that point, that's why we moved to the 3rd.
So how many of your teachers looked at you and said, really? How long are we going to keep this?
I didn't blame him,
No.
because you just came in.
But you know what, that question came up in all those summer workshops. Now I've spent all this time transferring this content here, and now we've transferred all this content here. And every once in a while, those teachers that really don't want to use an LMS at all are the ones that are saying, "No, is Canvas here for sure?" And I'm like, yes, it's not going anywhere.
So Patty just brought you in to clean up the mess, right?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
And my OCD, I've got everything in nice piles. So it's all good.
Thanks for whoever grabbed that data from the attendance sheet and put it in there.
I will say that in our district, our teachers bought in, I think, when we started paying for Canvas, instead of using something that was cheaper or free, because the free items or the cheaper items seem like there's a good chance you were going to switch from thing to thing. But then when we made a 5-year contract with Canvas, everyone was kind of like, well, it's going to be here for at least 5 years. We bought the contract, like we signed on.
That's exactly what happens. We still have people that are like, well, are we really saying the Canvas? We're a Google Apps school. Like, are we going to switch to Google? It's free. And, you know, and I can fall back on, we have a 5-year contract.
We fall back on Google's not an LMS.
Exactly. I follow up with that too.
I figured. I figured you guys did. Very nice discussion. Let's yeah, every time. Yeah, it's interesting. I just tweeted why is it so heated and territorial? The LMS discussion. It's almost like you're talking about a football team. Yeah, it's like you're talking about a football team. Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a drawer full of My Big Campus swag. All right, let's
Does anyone know what was being planned for My Big Campus as far as pricing?
It's free through 2016, and that's all that I know.
All I've heard from Joel is that, well, I don't know if people are going to be grandfathered. I mean, we are. I'm not going to pay for it, but I heard that it's going to be considerably less expensive than in other LMSs.
How much per student are the other LMSs generally?
$10 a kid.
How much?
What are they, $10 a kid?
10 to
What's in
6.
my head?
Because I just talked to Pete yesterday because he's talking about renegotiation of like a 5 to 6 year contract that we had with Lightspeed that's going to come up in a year or two, and he said that it's a la carte. You can get the different pieces a la carte for $4 a kid, but then when you get the whole package, it ends up being less. Even if you don't use 1 or 2 of the pieces, it ends up being. I thought he was saying like $12 to something per kid, and that is it for filter and LMS and mobile management system, and they have a new classroom. What's it called, Michelle? Classroom View Orchestrator, where you can manage in a classroom. It's like net support, and so all of those come together. My Big Campus would be $4 a student, is what he was generally speaking. Now, that's not a quote, by the way, and if anybody's in My Big Campus on the Hangout, but about $4 per student. So. That's significantly less if Canvas is $10 to $12 a student. But it's different, yeah. I mean, Yeah, you're right. It's not.
It is hard to compare I mean, even all of it, you take any two LMSs, and it's just hard to compare. It depends what do you want it to do, what's your number one priority.
Right.
And then using it efficiently.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, it's a 10:15. Let's take about a 15-minute break till about 10:30, and we'll start back at 10:30.
Robbie, did we tell them where the restrooms are at the beginning?
We did not.
Okay.
However, you may.
Just go out any of these doors and turn right, and it'll be on your right down the hall, both men's and women's. Yeah.
Okay, let's get started again. Michelle. Let's get started. The next thing on our agenda is digital citizenship. There were several people on that on the invite list.
Everybody, let's them out!
There were several people on the invite list who mentioned questions about digital citizenship. It is a very hot topic. It's something that I have a passion for and am working on myself to become digital citizenship certified through Common Sense. I'm the digital citizenship guru for Wayne Township, and I actually have been asked to speak at a couple of the e-learning events this summer, the summer of e-learning events. And so a lot of people are talking about, what are you doing? What is, and not me, but what are you doing as a school district to promote digital citizenship, as well as this other topic of digital literacy that kind of goes hand in hand with it. To be digitally literate, you also need to have good digital citizenship skills, and so they go hand in hand. And we've talked at several team meetings in the past about how Wayne Township does it. And I don't want this to be a discussion just about us. I want to know what you guys are doing, and I'm more than willing to discuss a little bit about what we're doing, especially for new people in the room and new people who are on Hangouts with us. But what are you doing to address digital citizenship and digital literacy in your classrooms and in your districts?
Robbie, was that code for Michelle, don't open your mouth?
That was code for Michelle, don't open your mouth yet. And me. So I'll just let the crickets chirp for a little while.
Okay, about 2 years ago, our director came in and said, we need all you digital coaches to sit down and put together a curriculum about digital citizenship. We were planning on one-to-one. It was a hot topic at some point for our superintendent. And of course, none of us can leave the room, right?
And it's not being broadcast statewide, so.
And so.
No.
So at Brown County, where I'll make up the school district. But anyway.
I'll bleep that out.
So, I mean, we jumped into Common Sense Media. We were, going into My Big Campus. We started putting together, a whole program. We call it eCitizen. We started writing software at each grade level. We were having meetings with a lot of people, doing this, meeting each week, seeing what we're doing, And then all of a sudden, nobody showed up at our meetings. And then nobody was talking about it. It wasn't a hot topic all of a sudden. Nobody cared if we were doing it any longer. We were asking, okay, so are we going to present this at a principals meeting? Are we going, nothing, no answers, no response. So it kind of went away. But we still developed all these packages, and we still show them to teachers, and they use them. A lot of times they want the digital coaches to come in and teach them, which is great, because Common Sense Media has some good stuff, and we just kind of played on top of that. And now you've got the iBook stuff that they have. You've got, they've got a lot of great stuff, and it's a matter of does anybody want to make the time to actually teach it? it comes up whenever something bad happens. You know, we get all pitchforks and torches, but then it goes away.
What were you going to say?
We have a situation where I rolled out 5 mini lessons on Google Drive that we do during advisory. And I had 0 teacher buy-in at the high school level because they said the kids were too old. They're too old, we're past this, it's a waste of our time. Then we had a bad incident, a really bad incident that I don't think my administrators would appreciate me sharing it. Let's just say the teachers found some buy-in. But I created a digital citizenship quiz that the students are going to be taking actually this next week out online, and that they have to take and pass. And they are just basic common sense questions, but I got a little more buy-in from the teachers because they knew their students were going to be responsible for this quiz. So I set it up on my big campus, so it was coordinated and graded, so I didn't have to go through all 700 of them to just give me a percentage of this is the answers you're getting here, here, and here.
The buy-in is really great after something happens. We've got social workers, they've put together a program, a lesson, same thing, I'm sure, where the kids have to go through it and pass the test. But what happened before? Why didn't they know this before?
I haven't done it yet, so I'll have to share the next time what the success rate is, but that's what we have in place right now.
Well, the success rate is 0. They've already done it.
Something I used to do in my class when I was teaching, and this was just me doing it, and some of the teachers I used to work with would do it too, and it's always the last few minutes of class, the kids are packing up, things are, we're slowing down. I would just engage my students in random conversations about what was happening in the news. There was an incident. Hey, did you hear about that lady that got fired for posting something negative about a customer on Facebook? What? Yeah, she said that this customer did this, and they would get really intrigued, even though they were packing up their materials. But it would just be every couple of days here and there during the week, I would say, look, everything you do is monitored. People want to know what you say. The person that you are online is different than the person you are in my classroom, and the kids would always kind of question what's happening in the world, and I'm like, you're not safe wherever you go. And I would just engage them in that conversation. We never had anything formal. We didn't really, this was, oh gosh, a while ago. I'm not as old as I think I am someday, but this was like 5 and 6 years ago when some of these things were starting to get big. But I really wanted to challenge my students to think about who they are and who they portray themselves, because the more things change dynamically online, I wanted my kids to be prepared for that when they got into the world and know that, hey, when you apply to go to college, they're going to want to see what you post online. They want to know who you are, because if you're a negative representation of them, they don't want you there. And they would think about it, and hopefully I made a positive impact on some of them, and I would tell them nothing is private. Even the makers of Snapchat have admitted there are only 2 people that know how to access any information that's ever sent through Snapchat, but federal law says they have to capture all that data. It has to be stored somewhere. Hello? And the kids are like, what? Really? And I'm like, yeah, so those pictures and those things you said, it's not gone ever. It's somewhere and can be found. You need to be aware that who you send it to is not always the person that gets it in the end.
I think the problem with that is, I think teachers are doing that individually, but getting that across the board where all the kids are getting that information, that's been difficult for us as a district. I know at the elementary level, they get that within their media day when they go to the library. Digital citizenship is kind of ingrained in the curriculum that they teach, but when it gets to the high school, the kids are kind of on their own, and it's what they get from individual teachers. But at this point, we've toyed around with creating an online class that the students would have to take like the first month of school, and maybe they would get a technology credit for that, like an extracurricular credit. I don't know, we're trying to figure that piece out, because I think that's really important for students to get that, especially when we're putting a device in their hands. But I don't think we can, depend on individual teachers pulling that for us. I think it's something we have to package as a class. But then it becomes who teaches that or who's responsible for that. So we're still working that out. And if anybody has, suggestions or successes and things that they've done, I'd love to hear that.
We have a course that's an elective through the business department at our high school that is digital citizenship. That is, yeah, that's our entire, it's an entire course. Unfortunately, it's not a required class, so not everyone takes it.
Right.
So right now, what we have a team looking at how to systematically communicate the same message to all students, but not. I don't want it to be this like added to our academic lab or our study hall time because it's not effective. We have some teachers that are doing great things. Every single 10th grader in our entire school has a blog that is created through their English class. And those teachers have done a great job of talking about your online presence. And we kind of flip it. We do a lot on the positive. Like you can put yourself out there and you can get opportunities for being positive in social media. And this is kind of it's a whole unit that they do just on blogging and their brand and their putting themselves out there. I know we have if you've read Don's book or seen Don speak at all, he's huge on social media and his students are getting opportunities to speak, to interact, to work with people all over the world because of what the students are doing on social media. So we really try to work with the students in that positive realm. Like somebody's not going to hire you if you post what you have for breakfast every morning on Twitter. Like that's not the kind of people they're looking for. Are you posting about the cool things that you're doing? That's what people are interested in. So we try to turn it to the positive side.
We have the digital citizenship class that our freshmen take, and then as a TI in the building for the high school, I picked a day, Tuesday, because it went along with Netiquette Tip Tuesday. So every Tuesday in the morning, I shoot out a tip, and I try to rely heavily on my students. I have 2 kids that come in and help me kind of manage like a help desk for tech issues, and so I find out what they're talking about, what the major issues are. And so like when American Sniper came out, and I happened to walk into one of the classrooms during homeroom period, and a group of students was talking about how they had just finished watching it, and not at the theater. And so my Netiquette tip for that week was about that. It was about piracy, it was about stealing, et cetera, et cetera. And if I can find hot topic issues like that, I got more responses from the students because they're able to comment on my announcement. So this huge debate was going on. So if I can find things like that get the students talking, and I had plenty of students who definitely supported the position that I was taking in my Netiquette tip. So that's kind of cool too if you can get them talking about it and debating it as well.
I've also talked with a group of students about the positive power that's available in social networks. Last summer we went to Austin, Texas for an LMS conference, and we also went to the Google facility that's there. But on our way there, the airlines had a malfunction in Indianapolis, and when we got on the airplane, they told us there would only be about 5 minutes in between when we landed and the next plane would take off. But there were about 15 of us on the plane, and so we said to the flight attendants, "Is there any way, since the plane we're supposed to be on is right there, could you hold it for 5 or 10 minutes?" Knowing that you're just going from, I don't know where we were, Dallas to Austin. We were going to Austin. Maybe it was Dallas to Austin. And they said, "We'll do what we can." Well, a friend of mine who was with us started tweeting, and you weren't tweeting either. We were tweeting too, weren't you? Weren't you to the airlines?
No,
just Ryan and me. You were out there before. So another teacher and I started tweeting about, hey, group of 15 of us have an early meeting, because their solution was, we're going to give you guys hotel tickets and food tickets, and we'll get you out first thing in the morning. And we're like, no, we have a meeting with Google. You don't understand. we're a school district and we have a meeting with Google at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We have to be in Austin at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. What can you do? You're going to make us wait from like, it was probably 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't have a plane that goes from here to, Austin, Texas. We were looking at getting cars. We were looking at this. So we started tweeting to the airlines and saying, hey, what can you do for us? There are 15 of us on this airplane, and you're going to make us stay overnight. We have a meeting, and we're telling this story in 140 characters. And there were other people who were retweeting us, and so it started to get big, and we were noticing that it was getting big, kind of like, I was really surprised, actually. But then the airlines started contacting us back, and we started asking the people who were working with us at the ticket counter, who are you? And so we started putting their information into the tweets, and so the airlines on Twitter started getting involved, and they got all of us into Austin that night. I think there were 2 different planes, but they were able to get us all into Austin that night by going to different companies. So I tell students that here's a fantastic use of this, that we were doing it in a very kind way, just saying, hey, here's the situation. Is there anybody who can help us? Using social media and also digital citizenship skills to get some work done that needed to get done, and to use the power of that ability to network for our benefit to be able to get ourselves where we needed to go. And it worked out really well that we were able to do that. So we tell students that it's not just, digital citizenship isn't just a list of rules of things that you can't do. But here are ways to do things the right way and in appropriate ways, and leverage the power of the technology that we have available to us today for ways that can be very powerful in our own lives.
The ice bucket challenge is a really good thing to realize as well. If you Google that, there's so many good videos and stuff out there, and I used it with my 5 mini lessons to talk about how quickly they raise the amount of money, and without Twitter and all of the other social media, that they probably wouldn't spread the country. But it is, I agree, very good to show them the good points of what we can do with it.
What about digital literacy? What are you doing specifically to pass on the ideas of digital literacy to your students instructionally? Do we need to discuss like what that means? Digital literacy, what that looks like?
Well, it looks like this. We're giving every child a device next year. That's what people think.
I was going to say, yeah, there are a lot of people who think that's what it is. Yeah, just that they have access to a connected device. Is anybody doing anything formally with either of these 2 topics? Maybe a couple people have talked about digital citizenship, but what about digital literacy?
You should run kids through like some of the Google search tools, like some of the classroom, like, trying to just get students thinking about what it actually means, like what some of these portals are. YouTube isn't just like, what is YouTube? It's a portal that anybody can put things, and start raising these issues. And we're talking like, and when we like make videos and post them, like, look, I just made it, what I said wasn't true, but I put it here. If you watched it, so we just start creating those like real environments for students, and then, there's resources out there that are already there that you can kind of bring into your classroom and try to integrate into what you're doing every day. And then just challenging the students, I think, and getting teachers to think about, what is this tool that I've given the student? And then it's just more of a culture. It's not like a one-day event that happens. Let's talk about digital literacy. It's like this ongoing culture in your classroom. I think as like moving from the classroom into like a coach position, it's like, how do we create that culture with our teachers? And that's the question. It's like, I can go run a little PD for them, but does that really mean they bought into it, or they just show up to get a PGP point? Like how do we get them thinking about that every day? I think we assume that even our own teachers know what good like digital literacy skills are. So I think trying to raise those issues and then finding teachers that our kind of latest thing is trying to highlight the teachers that are doing it really well, because they're out there. We just don't. We're not promoting them. You know, they're the biggest advocates. I mean, I can go in there and talk to them about it, but that it only goes so far until you start bringing out the folks that are doing the real work. And they're finding the resources on a daily basis. So, to me, it was just taking resources that are already being used, trying to create a culture in the classroom.
I think I put my mouth shut long enough. I've seen a really cool model of it. Across the district, our media specialists have their own curriculum map for digital literacy and digital citizenship, so they teach it. In one particular building, one of our media specialists, I think, has done a really good job of working with the staff. He will go to grade team meetings, find out about research projects, things that tie into what he's teaching, and we'll kind of do a co-teaching. So you're working on this research right now. I'll help the students find the resources, and this is what I need from you. So the principal lets him have a portion of some of the staff meetings where he's able to say, this is what we're working on in these grade levels. This is what I'm going to provide. This is what I need from you to fulfill that. And it's been a really cool partnership, and I feel like the buy-in's there. And a lot of it is because teachers are getting something in return. The projects are more successful because the media specialist is helping them teach it. And then it's also coming from a teacher who knows because they're on the, the boots on the ground, they get it. So that's been really neat to see that partnership, and it's been pretty successful in that building.
And I'm the media specialist at Ellen, and that's something that we do. I mean, I go out, and I've done 6 or 7 of those this week. I go in and when teachers are introducing a research, I go in and show them how to use the databases, how to cite their information. And I do that throughout the year, and it's been through a multitude of different classes, whether it's world language or English or social studies. And I think that is something that's successful in helping the teachers and the students buy into it, because one, they see what's available. It does make the projects more successful because kids aren't out on Google getting Joe's website about whatever, and it helps create that digital literacy of what is a good resource. How do I make sure that I'm not plagiarizing and reinforcing that and hearing it from somebody else besides the classroom teacher. I think that is a great way to.
I find part of the problem is that oftentimes there are so many teachers who don't have good digital literacy skills themselves, and therefore that's not getting pushed onto their students. And that is just I think a function of time, in that you have teachers in the classroom who didn't initially learn how to learn that way, nor were they taught how to learn that way in undergrad, and so now they're teaching the way they were taught, and changing that cycle is a very difficult thing to do. I have been doing this for 15 years. Integration has been my job in a school district for 15 years, and that is, I think, one of the primary things is that you have to get those teachers to change the way they teach before you're going to impact any type of things that are going on with students. And we're trying to do it in our media centers, and you're trying to do it in your media center to get the students to do it. But if it's secluded like that in a media center and not being done on a regular basis in the classroom, are the students really getting those digital literacy skills that they really need? I don't know that they are, unless you have the teachers, who there are many, that are very good at doing research, knowing what the difference between plagiarizing and rehashing and remixing is. And they're using those skills and modeling those skills, not just using them, but modeling them and teaching students how to do it. Because it's one thing to use it as a teacher, it's a different one to instruct it and show students the right ways to do things and the reasons why you're doing things, why you're modeling things. Just to do something and to not break copyright is one thing, but to then tell students why you're not breaking copyright is huge, because then that's where you have pushed on that information and that knowledge to students, and hopefully that will then apply to them rather than just be something you're modeling.
Is anybody doing anything with teaching students how to license their online content that they're creating? And I always thought that would be a good way to sort of teach the flip side of it, to not be so much about
not plagiarizing, which is important, but we've talked about that for years, but just teaching them how to use a Creative Commons feed to embed it in digital material. That seems like it would be a proactive way of really getting students to think that, yeah, I'm contributing to this sort of digital ecosystem, and I have some control as a creator over establishing a level of rights that how I want people to treat my work, and then that would maybe help them to think a little bit more about how they consume other people.
Interesting you bring that up. I'm working on a lesson right now for 2 middle schools that is on the rights of a creator. And one of the videos that's used is a 13-year-old girl who is a writer herself, and has in the back of her mind she doesn't want to plagiarize, but she also wants to put her work out there so that there's an authentic audience, and so she can get feedback. And she explains in this video, most of the Common Sense media lessons have a video that go with them. She's explaining that she uses this, and I tried to look it up. I haven't gone that far, but she called it Booksy, and she publishes her work out there, gets feedback back from them, and then they're also within this lesson is a place where you can go to create the little symbol that as the creator you can put on your own work to say these are the rights that I give people who see my work. And so what you can say is this is part of what's the term I'm looking for? CC. Creative Commons. It's part of Creative Commons, and you can use it with attribution or you can't use it with attribution. And as you answer these questions on this website, it creates this little button for you that you can use. And this Common Sense media lesson explains that it's the other side of don't plagiarize. It's the positive side of let's put your work out there and let's get it protected.
I'm assuming most people know this, but in Google you can search for IP. So when you're teaching people how to do research, that should be one of the critical things that you're showing them to do, because that's an easy. Everyone knows how to search on Google, but you can actually restrict your search results to see only Creative Commons licensed materials or things that are allowed to be remixed, and that would be certainly a good modeling technique for kids.
This is it says grades 3 to 5, but I'm actually using it for 7th and 8th graders because I'm using the older version of the lesson, but I'm using this video because it's more appropriate. But it's this girl's story about how she's wanting to publish her own work, and when she puts it out there, she explains that it's copyrighted when she puts it out there, and the rights that come along with that, and how to use this website to be able to copyright your material, or to be able to indicate that it's copyrighted, and how the copyright looks because of what ability she wants to give someone for her work.
But is this is more about digital citizenship, wouldn't you say, as opposed to like necessarily digital literacy?
I don't think so, because I think they're so intertwined. This is very much digital literacy because you're learning about how to research and find things. Yes, that deals with digital literacy, but you're also learning about how to contribute to that pool of information that's out there. And when you are putting your stuff out there, you have to have digital citizenship in the back of your mind. But you're digitally literate because you are then sharing what's in your mind and communicate. Yeah, they're just very intertwined. And I would think it would be impossible to separate the two because you're talking about plagiarism. When you're talking about plagiarism, you're talking about the rights of the person who created it. Well, then look at the other side of that coin, which is who created it and what rights does that person want to give. And as a creator, I want to share. I want to be literate. I want to share information with other people. Well, then as a person who's doing that, I have certain rights, which then jumps back into the digital citizenship side. You're right.
I think the thing that happens, I was in shock when I was working with a class and realized that everybody was doing their Google search through images. Because I never did that. I didn't do all my searching through images, but the kids did. I was going to try to change them. I want to change you. Instead, they changed me because I found that they were finding things faster and easier for them. Not everybody, but a lot. I think it's that's part of the digital literacy. For us, is figuring out that they're figuring out ways to do things. But now it's a matter of bring it around and help them to use that another way. And that's the problem with all of us, is how do we get to that? And it's getting the teachers. And I wish I could grab people in the central office and shake them and say, I need to get to them. I need to see them more.
The problem ends up being in a classroom. What minutes do you take away from math and language arts to teach this? And it has to be integrated. It has to be something that you just model and explain on the fly as you're teaching language arts.
Exactly. And that's why I didn't get to it's the teachers.
Yeah.
But I think it's like the bigger picture is like creating a space where they get to use these skills. If we talk about them in isolation, but if we're giving them projects that they are trying to solve problems, I mean, we're all probably, everybody is a YouTube aholic. Like, I got to fix something on my car. It's a real problem. I go in there, I'm like doing stuff I never would have touched, but because it's a real problem, so we've got to create space in the classroom that there's problems and things that they have to actually use these skills that are real to them. It's not a problem if I give them the problem. It's like their own. Like, look, you got to do this to solve or to find or to use that real tool. That's the power of it. So how do we get our teachers to create those spaces in this real kind of narrow, restrict environment that we're all kind of living?
Yeah.
Yep. And that is publicized through the state right now on this Hangout. That was yeah. From Brown County.
We work together.
Very nice.
I think it's funny. It's kind of a real life example of how this can kind of play out after school ends. A friend of mine, we were having just a fun conversation, and he was pointing me to a video that he and his friends made on YouTube, and he pulls it up, and this video has been removed by the copyright holder, and he's like, "What in the world?" I'm like, "Well, what'd you do?" And he goes, "Well, it's just a video we made. My friend put some stuff together and threw a song in the background." I'm like, "What song was it?" And it was a newer song that had just come out recently. I was like, "Did you get permission?" Like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, when you see who pulled your video, I guarantee you it's either the band or the record label that you didn't cite anything, you didn't get permission, you didn't claim. And he's like, "What?" And it's like, you know, it's the real world, but I'm like, you can't just go posting stuff out there and say that it's your work, you know. And he was just blown away because that's not something that even some of these kids who are getting out of high school in the last 10, 15 years are really aware of either. So
right.
It's hitting a lot of people. They just see on TV, you know, well, we remade this Taylor Swift song into a funny haha, and we want to get on TV, but not all record labels or bands want that.
Right.
So it's a real issue.
Interesting that Google must pay people to go and scour the videos that are out there.
He's like, so do they have people? I'm like, I'm sure they have. They probably have bots that listen to the videos and they extract the audio. And I'm sure there's some algorithm that says match this video with this.
Well, look at SoundHound and things like that. That it's just a microphone that's listening to your music and it electronically will tell you what the song was.
I use Spotify, or not Spotify, SoundHound.
Yeah. So there, I was looking through the archive of Hangouts that we've done from a couple of times ago, and looking at the list, it shows that several of them have been marked as breaking copyright, because at the very beginning of them, I had Pandora on, and it gave a list of all these songs that were copyright infringements, and I thought, what? We don't listen to songs. What's going on? And I listened to the first of the video, and it's because the first 15, 20 minutes in the room we were listening to Pandora, and those songs that were played were all listed with that video as copyright infringement because they were picked up by the microphone and they were played in the video. You can barely hear them, but you can hear the beat and you can hear when the vocalist sings, you can hear which songs they are. And so Diana Ross, you know, one of her songs was flagged as a copyright infringement. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I mean, it had nothing to do with that. Who's flagging this? And then I realized what had happened. So with this meeting, I muted the microphone when we had Pandora playing in the beginning. So hopefully that didn't make Okay, well now we're 20 minutes behind, behind schedule. But good discussion of digital citizenship, digital literacy. Interesting that when we first opened this discussion, nobody was saying anything because it didn't seem like there was much going on. But now we've talked for over a half an hour on the topic. Clearly, it's an important topic and something that needs to be addressed. But we're all struggling with how to do that. So let's move on to Google Classroom. And this brilliant thing that Google just bestowed upon us several months ago. Are everybody's teachers as googly-eyed, pun intended, of Google Classroom as ours?
Are the rest of you like frustrated as I am? Yes. Yes, I like it. Thank you.
What I find happening is teachers are like, oh, it does this great thing. I wish it did this. I wish it did this. I wish it did this. And I'd say, our LMS does that.
Well, that's how the LMS also grew.
That's right.
I wish it did this and I wish it did that. I hope Google's listening so much.
I feel like I think Google Classroom is cool for what it does, but it does a very small number of things.
Yeah.
When it does really well. And I'm just amazed that teachers are still in this honeymoon phase with Google Classroom and no one's complaining about the things it doesn't do. But you show them a full LMS and it's like, well, Blackboard did this when we had it. So I don't get it.
Our teachers too are very good at over it. And some of them will go to PD because other teachers are leaving PD and they're on fire about it. And not that we organize those PDs, those are organized at the building level.
Right.
But they come out of it and some just go, nah, I don't. And other teachers like, I just want to use our LMS well. I don't want to learn this tool, that tool, the other tool. And then you got your teachers on fire that think it's the best thing since. But as soon as we explain to our teachers that they have to manage all their own rosters, and they have to manage all their own add-ons and extensions and things like that, that tends to get some of them back.
Because we haven't gone with an LMS for sure yet, Google Classroom has been a great solution for the people who aren't using an LMS. And we've just said, it's not a full LMS, it's a great workflow option. And this is our first year at the GIG district as well. And so it kind of came about all at the same time. And especially for some of our younger levels, it's been a really nice solution over the people who have used Doodle or Canvas or whatever. And it's been a nice workflow. It really works well at our high school level for our learning lab classes. So those remediation classes that don't really have a lot of content-based units from year to year, but it's like integrating those skill sets for the students that haven't had to do. And so it's been a really nice workflow for those, especially like with our teacher who teaches the learning lab, because she can comment on all the papers and she's that really wonderful more about Google and collaboration automatically in terms of workflow. And that's really how we presented it to our teachers. And I have a heavy Moodle user who loves Classroom, just like you were saying earlier, it's workflow. So when he pushes out his lab units or whatever and they have to write their notes, they push them through Classroom, but he still has all his content based and his tests and everything there.
Our teachers keep saying, I want the LMS to be able, I want my kids to be able to collaborate like in real time like they can with Google. Well, when we talked to our LMS creator about that, they were like, well, Google pretty much owns the market in the ability to do that. The people who know how to do that, coding-wise, they've hired them.
But I think like they have user experience down. Like why I can walk into a class and in 15 minutes, every teacher's got the class created, they're submitting assignments, they're on the discussion. That's why it's simple. It's simple. They don't it takes 2 steps to do what in some LMSs it takes 6 steps. I'm gonna give you 2 steps, you know? I mean they've got that figured out. I mean it's our job just to kind of let them know like what it can do, you know, its limitations, but I like it just because it's convertible to like once you get out of like all the skills that they've already established in Google Drive or Google, you know, all the other apps, they just kind of they all work together. They're speaking the same language. It's like if you use Microsoft Word, you understand how Excel, all the drop downs, you know, all these. Like you kind of start to figure out this is how they do things. So it's simplified.
This is a lot to say about just where teachers are. Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that's really what we think about the SAM alarm model. What is that, right? That's I mean, it's mostly substitution and authentication, right? Building better mousetraps. making things work well together. So I think, to me, that's what the appeal of the project is. I also think it's interesting, of all the things that, all the components of an LMS that they could have built, that's what they started with first. That's the itch that needed to be scratched, and that's what teachers really liked it. I think it's interesting that teachers think it's an LMS as well, right? Because that is their fundamental thing they're trying to solve with the LMS. So I don't think it's that crazy that teachers are thinking that way, and that they're using it even when they have a tool that's way more robust, because I think that one of the challenges with LMSs is that they're so feature rich that people in this room get goosebumps when they look at all of the things that it could do, but we're not everybody, right? And so everybody out there, that's when they say, wow, you just showed me things I don't know how to do in Google Classroom, right? That's actually pushing the threshold of my ability to use things, and it's just enough at the right time. So.
Well, I'll have a shout out to Matt Miller, who was a Spanish teacher, and this pictogram that he put together. And it's one of Google's philosophies is it's best to do one thing really, really well. And honestly, what we were saying, John, teachers really probably need to do about 3 or 4 different things. The LMSs typically do 35 different things. Google Classroom does probably 3 of those 4 things, which is why teachers are probably gravitating toward it, because they need to get information to their kids and then know what their kids learned from that and have that submitted back to them. Google does that well. Yeah, Classroom does that well.
I think we need to pay a lot of attention to things that teachers adopt on their own. The comment came up earlier where, like, well, how do we drive adoption? We're going to pay for this thing. How do we get everyone to use it? Like, well, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, what's the problem you're trying to solve? But when you find teachers adopting something without you telling them to adopt it, yeah, it might be at a substitution level, because that's maybe where the smallest change is the easiest change to implement, right? But anyway, I find the whole Google Classroom thing interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, I put a link to this in the agenda at the bottom, by the way. It's a pretty cool sketch by Matt and how he kind of put those together like that. Yeah, he's pretty good at those.
I bought the app. I bought the fancy little.
He just started doing that too. Like within the last year, he started doing that.
I bought all of the tools he uses. It looks like a 3rd grader trying to draw something. I don't know how.
I think you do have to have an ounce of talent in the drawing, which I. Which.
By the way, that went across the whole stage.
Yeah, which I have none. Which is why I don't make those either. I forget what the tool is. What's the tool?
Paper.
Okay.
I'll make a plug for Matt. He actually has his book coming out at the end of April.
And he's speaking at a whole bunch of the summer pre-learning sessions.
In what departments?
He teaches Spanish on a regular basis. I forget what school is he in. Turkey Run, that's right.
On a regular basis.
Ditch That Textbook is his. If you do a Ditch That Textbook search, you'll get to him.
Don't spend the ridiculous amount of money on the paper stylus. It doesn't make that happen. I thought it would.
It doesn't make that happen. Have you ever sat in a conference with someone who's doing this type of thing? I sat in one. I went to Alan November's conference in Boston last summer, and there was a lady who was doing this, and it was incredible just to sit back and watch the conference happen, and then follow her on Twitter and the posts that she was making with these pictures she was drawing with notes from the conference. It was incredible. Anyway, let's go back up here. Okay, this conversation is going to go on forever. I can feel it. The Chromebook rollout, do's and don'ts. Who is just stepping into the waters of rolling out Chromebooks? Okay, who is not going with Chromebooks at all? Okay, who's kind of a year or so into Chromebooks and using them regularly? Okay, so we have like a wide range of those people. And actually, the reason I asked for hands is because I was reading something that said, if technology, actually it might have been Matt Miller, his recent post is Ditch That EdTech. And one of the things is, if you can make a poll with just raising your hand, isn't it a whole lot faster anyway? Why pull poll everywhere in and make them do that when you can just say, how many of you and it's a whole lot faster, and they can just raise their hand, and it's a lot more physical, and they burn some calories, and anyway. Interesting. So a couple of you said that you wanted some discussion about Chromebook rollout do's and don'ts, which then also, yes, segues into BYOD as well, and one-to-one collection and distribution. So what questions do you have about Chromebook rollout? Because I know that John's in a district that has a large Chromebook rollout. We are in a district ourselves that have a very large Chromebook rollout going on right now. How many Chromebooks do you guys have, John? 12,000. We have about 7 now, and it's going to increase. Huh?
Yeah,
Couple thousand. We have about 7,000 now. It's going to increase to probably closer to 9 or 10 next year. We are in our 2nd year now of doing Chromebooks. So what questions do you guys have? And I guess probably we should have looked at a discussion in the chat within the Hangout. There's still 15 viewers on. If you are in the Hangout and you have questions, I guess now that's a little late into the game, but you could put some questions in the chat and we'll pull them up too.
So now that you've rolled out, knowing what you know, what would you, I don't know, your top 5, remember this, be sure to do this?
We did not go with Samsung. We did a pilot with Samsung. I have a Samsung. But from other districts that I've talked to, I think that it was wise for us to front load the cost and buy a little bit beefier device and not have the repair problems that Samsung districts are telling us that they have. However, there's also something to say for a device that's cheap, that's going to get kids the connection that they need. And I think there's also something to say for the education that you can do with kids to teach them how to take care of a device and make that, I mean, people are saying like 25% of the devices are cracked screens and broken with Samsung districts, which is very high. Ours is less than 10%. When we have the Lenovo device. So I think that needs to be considered. It doesn't need to be a make or break type thing, but if money is the big issue, then by all means move forward with doing it, because our teachers are absolutely ecstatic that our kids have Chromebooks. And we rolled out at the 6th grade level and then went up to 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then now have pulled it down to 3rd grade because we had tablets at 6th grade first. We thought tablets were the be-all, end-all when the HEC conference gave away the Lenovo tablets. That was it. And we went with a pilot in 6th grade, and our teacher said, we need a keyboard. And so then we decided Chromebooks there. We moved tablets to the 3rd grade. And the teachers were all crazy about the tablets for about the first week or 2. And then they said, we need a keyboard. So we took tablets out of 3rd grade, and now we have Chromebooks at 3rd grade, and we've moved tablets to lower than that, and are now thinking that Chromebooks probably will be better also at 2nd grade.
When do kids learn how to type?
2nd grade. We have formal keyboarding instruction in the Media Center within the digital literacy curriculum at 2nd grade and at 5th grade.
Is that part of their like specials rotation, like art, music? So you have a certified teacher doing media.
The media specialist is the one who does it.
So we had the Samsung 303, which is that what that is?
You know what? It's the silver one. It's not the black one. That's all I know.
I would echo what Robbie said. It's a very brittle device. We would buy Chromebooks all over.
We would too. We'd make the decision all over again.
So I mean, you can't. I don't think you can even buy those. I think they're kind of discontinuing those. So that's because part of the cost of being on the front end of something. And I mean, they were $250. That's including the console. So the Google console. So they just work. We had 12,000 devices. We added 1 staff person. So it's one thing to have your updates just come out when they come out. And
it's kind of I liken it to Apple, in that Apple made their MP3 player and it did one thing really, really, really well, and everybody jumped on it and liked it and wanted it because it did that one thing very consistently and it did it well. Chromebooks are very much like that, and honestly, I haven't heard of a device that doesn't work itself. Within the HP, within Dell, within Lenovo, and Samsung, which are the 4 biggest. I think there are a couple of other ones, but those are the 4 that Google endorses and does with the management console. I've not heard of any of those devices that the device doesn't work well. It's got Chrome on it. It doesn't do anything but get you to the web. It does that really, really well.
I would say also think about your like app downloading policy strategy. You know, we've had problems where we think that a malfunction with Chromebook is actually some app masquerading as something or taking over the device's camera or something like that. And the only real way to mitigate that is to just wipe it and start over, which seems like kind of a nuclear option. Really, if the student has had a lot of apps, so we've had some issues in that area. I really don't know of any issue with the platform itself. I mean, no one said, "Wow, no one has ever said anything about the form factor has been the problem, and not the OS itself."
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, we kind of think of it as just the Google environment as a natural complement to the Google Apps for Education approach.
John, what filtering are you using on that?
I can't even tell you. I don't know that side of.
That's why I don't know what this is. I'm a teacher. I don't know that. It's just a device that works. It's silver.
I mean, we're using some of the built-in filtering from ENA.
Okay.
Another thing that I would add to that list is the App Store that you can customize for students. You can have your own custom-designed App Store. And yeah, it's like a walled garden, and they can't add other apps other than the ones that are there in that App Store. We have that set up for our students, and we vetted through lots of different apps and have probably 150 to 200 in our App Store that our students can get to. But it's a matter of teachers saying, "Hey, I like this app. Can you add it?" But here's the thing: they're only links to web pages. So if a teacher can't get an app attached to the student's, account, all they have to do is put the link to the website out there, and then the kid can make a bookmark to it, and then they've got the app. So apps aren't really apps. Keep that in mind. They think that they're downloading an app like you download an APK file on your phone. That's not what it is. It's just a shortcut to a link to a website.
I would say have a plan for like checking in on all devices as well, along with that creating that application of use on the side. So where I'm going with that is we kind of rolled out very quick. We didn't do a pilot. There were some circumstances around that, but the net effect of it is because teachers weren't quite ready to go with that. There were some students who could experience instruction an entire week and not be required to use a Chromebook, which meant if it was broken, it could sit at the bottom of their locker until it was collected. Right? So some sort of sequence where maybe quarterly or every half year you lay eyes on the device for everyone so you can kind of get a sense. Because we are in a high poverty district, so this idea of getting hit with charges, the philosophy of the family or the kids was like, well, I'll get charged once. If it happened once, it could happen again, so I want to make sure it only happens once. So since there are really no consequences around me not bringing my Chromebook to class, then I'm going to just leave it in my locker, and I will swallow that pill when it's at the end of the year. So,
hiding the screen. When a teacher walks by, they don't see the screen is damaged and broken.
So all of you who are thinking like you're going to do pilots, things like that, you obviously are putting a little more thought, and you're having a longer runway than you want to do. But I think creating that need for you, where it's going to be a really long day in school if you don't have your Chromebook with you. There's a lot to that part of it, right? That's all the feature PD, but that doesn't have anything to do with the Chromebooks itself, right? It could be any technology has that problem.
Keep in mind that that Franklin schools are doing the Google Summit. They're doing a Google Summit where the EdTech team, which is I think a company from California, is coming in and doing a big Google thing. Also, Wayne Township is doing a Google Ed Camp that is free for anybody who wants to come. I'm putting a link down here underneath Google Chromebook, so you guys can get to it if you want. The Google Ed Camp will include things like this discussion, as well as integration. It'll be technical all the way across instructional things as well.
What do you know when that is?
Google Ed Camp is July 9th, I think.
We get a t-shirt.
Yes?
I think so.
Did we do t-shirt or was this something else? I don't know, this was a very,
Oh, wait. Why isn't that coming up the right way?
how many days is it? Just one. We had a very good discussion about these flags here, so we'll see. July 9th.
There is a Bright Bite, or not Bright Bites, but Eventbrite. Oh, there's Eventbrite registration that you can go and register. So it's July 9th. Lunch is included. There'll be a couple of vendors there. It's an ed camp, so there's no there won't be any big hard sell thing. And when you come with questions. And if you've never experienced an ed camp, you come and we will have a board that you will write your information, your questions down on, and that will be the topic, potentially. So we'll vet those questions, and then all of the people who are interested in that particular topic will go to one room and discuss that topic. So come with information or questions, and also come with information to share. Yes, everybody. Yeah, technical staff all the way through instructional staff. It's completely open. It's just a Google Ed Camp. Everything Google.
It's not too early to begin.
Yeah, Heck and Ice. Yeah, those two conferences will be. I didn't put anything on here just because we have one more meeting for the year, and I'll probably do some PR on that stuff then. But the ICE conference and the Heck conference are certainly places where instructionally and technically you can get professional development for your staff members.
IST is affiliate this year. A lot of booking conferences.
Yeah. Yep. I see somebody's putting the Franklin the Google Summit on there. Good. Thank you very much for doing that because I didn't have links to that. All right. So that. Any other questions about Chromebook? It's huge. Planning is huge.
Is anybody? I go to filter one more time. Right. Anybody filtering Google email? Student email?
Yeah. Yes.
What are you using for filter? I guess I'm saying content of email.
They're only allowed
Like Gaggle. Internal.
Okay, we just use Google's internal.
Okay.
They can't email outside the department.
Yeah, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the conversation.
We have like a list of
like
flag
Microcampus
words.
does, you know.
Oh, yeah, flat.
Yeah, we have a list of flag
So you can
words
do
that
that
come
with
up.
Okay.
Google doesn't.
Yeah, everything. And then we block our kids, like, they can't email each other, they can only email staff, they can't email outside.
Right.
And
We
we
do that.
They use
domains, yeah, so.
I get so many whitelists concerned. I've got so many things whitelisted right now.
Yeah, right now, for our kids, we only whitelist, like, EDUs, Canvas notifications.
Is that K-12?
Well, what you get into is like, okay, so we need, it may change here soon, but Khan Academy, right? Kids have to write, they have to write a thing, and they need to get the verification back, so I had to make the whole Khan Academy. Well, then I had so many of those, I was whitelisting all those. None of those are EDUs or .orgs.
What firewall?
Oh, well, that, but we're looking at using Gaggle as a content thing. It's like $3.5 a kid.
We use Gaggle, and then we ended up dumping the delay. Like, I could send an all app to staff, and maybe you guys would get it, and then 4 hours later, they would get it.
Yes, I don't want that. Yeah.
Things for like attendance, and it wasn't all the time, but it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was enough, and it was an issue.
Yeah. It only takes a couple.
Yeah.
We don't give an email to any students below 7th grade. And that has a lot to do with the Google Plus thing and the 13-year-old type idea. They can use our LMS to discuss it internally, however they want to. But at 7th grade, we offer them email. And at that point, they are relatively 13 years old. And we're beyond that. I mean, 13 is just an arbitrary number, in my opinion. You don't magically become responsible at age 13. And I tell students that as well. But you are expected to be using it responsibly at age 13 when we offer it and give it to you. So
it's
from
not active, like, 'cause to get on a Chrome, like, I guess I'm confused.
they have an address, but Gmail does not work.
It's not functional, okay.
It's not functional as an email
Turn it off
address.
in the, yeah.
Yep, we turn it off in the apps management piece.
We don't have an LMS, so we do have email addresses for all students.
Now, I will tell you, I've got first graders who are using their email address to log into Google. So now when, and so they understand how the login piece works, and they're using Google Drive. So therefore, they can type their whole Wayne or student.wayne.k12.in.us, and the teachers all freak out about that. And I'm just like, well, come on. They can remember their phone numbers. They can remember these. Put it on a little sticker on the tablet or on the Chromebook if you need to. Don't put the password with it, but put the username there, because everybody knows everybody's username. It's easy to figure out. Just put it on a sticker on the device. They'll get used to it, and they'll start learning it. I think a lot of times teachers even sell their kids short for the abilities that they have, and they're in their own classrooms.
Just a quick thing to ask, and I'm just asking it as that rhetorical question. I already know my own answer to the question, so I read a blog post yesterday, and this is a question that's come up with Chromebook rollouts anyway, but the first sentence of the blog post reads, don't think of a Chromebook as a computer, think of it as a device that must connect to the internet to operate. So.
But that's not true in any way.
So I know that's a pushback that comes out with Chromebook a lot, because there's a misconception that the Chromebook is simply a web-enabled device that can't do anything separate from the web. So I know that, like, as districts grow Chromebook, that there's this overwhelming, like, presence in some areas of education that see it as an extremely limited device that can't do anything unless you have an internet connection. So yeah, I kind of cringed when I read that blog post. That comes from educators to other educators, and I know how those kind of things, like Twitter, can spread like wildfire. So.
I would say that's so far from the truth. It's not totally far from the truth, but there's so much that you can do that clearly that blog poster has not been informed of. As far as read later fast, being able to take web pages and cache them on your device, and all of the offline things that Google Drive can do, and productivity tools that you can use that way. I mean, yeah, you can't get up to the minute, current event type stuff, but you can cache websites and still interact with that information that's there, and that text and those images that are there.
Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the arguments that will come up if you are a district who's looking at Chromebooks. That's true.
So you said that in 13 and above have a Gmail account, but what did you say that you do for the ones that are under 13?
Our LMS.
But then you said something about that you turn something off to them so that it turns email off.
They have an email address, which is their login. The email they can't use that to get to Gmail. They wouldn't be able to use it as an email account, but their username.
It looks like an email address, but it actually is serving as an email address.
Yes, it's in the format of an email address where it has username at student.wayne, but that's their login for their Chromebook.
So one of the things we had trouble with, I would at Chromebook rollout was students using their personal Gmails to sign on to their Chromebooks. And that still is an issue sometimes because kids will sign on with their personal Google and then they'll try to turn something in or view something that's
You allow that? Our kids can't log into ours.
They turned it off.
Oh, okay.
But once they've logged into their Chromebook, they can still sign in on their personal Google account. They still can't. Because
There's a way to turn that off because we faced that same thing, and I want to say we faced that like 6 or 8 months ago. So we can get you in touch with our techs because I have no idea how that works. I don't run the management side in the background. But if your techs need to get in touch with ours, I'll have your people get in touch with my people, and they can figure that out because they have solved those problems with logging because they were also able to, I think, get around our filter that way as well.
Yes,
in ways.
And they weren't able to turn things in on Canvas because Canvas integrates with Google and they can turn things in from their Google Drive, but it wouldn't be able to turn it in, the option wouldn't come up because it wasn't their student account.
Well, another fantastic thing about Google is that there are so many other tools that you can use, and you just say sign in with Google, and boom, you just signed in. So first graders who have a problem typing that big long email address, they just click sign in with Google, and their teachers can let them get to those places very quickly and very easily, to those tools that they want them to get to.
I have a list of all, not all, but they code that it's all the
It's not
schools
all.
can sign in.
I saw that email. It's a list of some of the very well-known ones that integrate with Google and Google Plus accounts. And we have Google Plus turned off, by the way, for K-12 because of the whole social thing that can cause, and because we use our LMS as that social piece, which also gets them in trouble, by the way. What about one-to-one collection and distribution? Or should I say distribution collection? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? How do you guys do that? How do you guys do that, John? I know how we do.
We pass them out of registration. We collect them. We're trying to push, right now, the problem we're trying to solve is pushing the collection back to the very last possible rate. We currently have a process that works well for the technology department, but not well for students. So we're trying to change that so it works well for students and maybe not much for the technology department. So it was really causing a problem for teachers who wanted to use the technology to do final exams, things like that. So
2 weeks prior to.
we're pushing that. We're trying to push it to the very last day or so of school, or maybe even the last day of school. So
Ours, I think we had ours say you bring them to school and they have to stay at school. You can still use them, because our teachers were like, well, you're cutting off 2 weeks of instructional use of these devices. You can't do that. So we said, okay, then bring them all in, but it's hard to do at the secondary level. At the elementary level, we were able to say, bring them to school, they can't go home. You just leave them in your classroom. Well, at secondary, they're going everywhere. So we had them, our problem is we got so much transience that we have kids who just don't bring back. Then you have police collecting them.
So what do you do now at secondary?
We collect them, I think it's several days. It's like the last week of school. We start on that Monday or whatever, several days before. It's several days because we need to be able to get to that kid and say, where's your Chromebook? If it's the last day or so of school, you know, the kid may come take a final and then never show up again. And then they've got the Chromebook and they have possession of it, and then we've got an issue with sending them to collections and getting a hold of wherever that device is. So we put them in these big green cart cases, and they sit in the buildings.
We start pushing out information to our students that last week or two before school's out, saying, don't forget, you have to turn them in, you have to turn them in, you have to turn them in, constantly telling them. And then we collect them after the last period of the last day. The teachers actually collect them. We have boxes and carts and things in each of the teachers' rooms. So whoever you have in your last period class, you get there a checklist and make sure everything is taken care of. So the teacher collects them, and then technology goes around and picks them up after school's out and gets them from them. And we hand out on the first 2 days of school. So you get them during your homeroom times. The teachers help us hand them out.
How do you sort them out over the summer to get them back into?
We keep them, our homerooms in the secondary level rotate through, so you have your same one freshman year as you do your senior year. So we collect them in homerooms, freshmen, the same homeroom
So the last period
together.
is the homeroom.
Yes, and we force them into their homerooms in the last period, or yeah, we do in the last period of the last 20 minutes or something to do the collection.
And we have it like a checklist, so the teachers can also say to their students, because it wasn't just taking the final exam, it was all my study material, all my review material was also on this device, if it wasn't stored in Google Drive or whatever. So that's why we had to let them have it until the end. And we'll give the homeroom teacher like a checklist. So if the student says, I'm really done with this on Wednesday and we're going till Friday, they can turn it in to their homeroom teacher early. They just have to check off the list. They do some brief checks for us.
Screens cracked or not.
Right, things like that.
These are all there.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay.
And we have iPads, so ours is in the tablet world, but screen cracks, making sure we, if they have to turn in their charger, making sure they're turning all of that in, the cases are okay, the labels and things are still right.
Signing out of their Apple ID. in case they don't come back.
What like inventory management system like are you guys using as far as like your help desk, like check in, check out? We're talking about having like a student run team where the device comes in, boom, it's in our inventory now. It's it's where that device is.
We're using a big spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very archaic.
Skyward?
Ours uses Skyward. It's like just like a textbook.
You're using it like a textbook, right?
Yeah.
We are transferring all of that to Destiny actually, and using it like a book.
You'll just scan it.
We'll just scan it.
We use Surpass because that's what our library.
Yeah, we were talking about we were trying to think of like solutions we already have in house.
I was just told about this. That we're going to use Destiny, and somehow it works in the background where you can set it up so that there's not a return date, and so it doesn't come up as something that's late for those students. And so we're putting barcodes and just scan them.
Our inventory is another location, so that it's not in the middle of the library's inventory and with their books. So we have a technology inventory space to where we don't have to mess with their processes in the library. It's the same system.
And in that, like, so if the student brings it back, then like, is there a place to like attach like a note to it, like this is what was wrong? You know what I mean? Like
Destiny has, I mean, just like books, there's damage places within Destiny.
Okay. All right.
We keep Google Docs of damage reports, so if we have issues with a student, we log it in a form which goes to the spreadsheet to keep track of that, so we can charge the book rental and all of that.
Right.
And then if we need to mark it damaged in the system, we can make notes, general damage, but it's not necessarily assigned to the student, it's assigned to the asset.
How about Skyward? How's that working?
I'm not really sure. I'm not on that end of it. Our treasurer is in charge of the storage. She does all the accounts and she runs all that. I'm not exactly sure.
Are you barcoding it? Do you know?
Yes, we are.
You are barcoding it and you're attaching it to a student.
Yes.
And I would think you'd be able to attach notes to that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Because they did have a textbook. Lost there. I can give you her contact information.
So that you know, Warren Township and Wayne Township are two big Google schools that you can ask questions of. Michelle and John and myself. Who else is willing to offer information about Chromebooks? Lawrence. So if you look at the attendance sheet, look for those schools' emails and contact those people. We'll be more than happy to give you some information. And also, if you're not a part of the HEC listserv, I would highly recommend that you become part of the HEC listserv. Probably not so much for teachers, but definitely for us. There's integration stuff that's discussed there. I am part of the HEC board, and Dave Bagwell is part of the HEC board. John was part of the HEC board.
Can you put that on there?
Sorry, how to be a part of the HEC listserv. Yeah, I will look that up.
It's on site, isn't it? It's on the site.
I think that's where I'm going, is the HEC website. Go to hec.k12.in.us, and then at the top there's a listserv button. You can click on listserv, and I think there's a button here that says sign me up.
I'd recommend also, if you're not on head search, good source of information. I just put that in the document. So as a weekly update comes out, but they have a lot of resources that you can follow on the website as well.
All right, and then our last item is actually from a gentleman who's not been here before. His name is Jeff Bond from Patton's. Many of you might even be aware of who he is from Patton's. He asked if he could be a part of the meeting just because of all of the technology stuff that they do. Jeff and I have worked together really when I first got my integration job in Brownsburg in 2000. We did a grant with Patton's and put Promethean boards and all kinds of electronics and stuff in classrooms back then, but he brought up this idea of accessible educational materials, and it's something that I have to deal with on a regular basis at Wayne Township. I'm kind of the liaison between our special ed department and our technology department. And so when any technologies come up, which they always do because teachers are always wanting assistive technologies for their students, and then what they end up doing is they go out and they find technologies, and special ed just happens to have money, and so they buy things and they bring them in, and they want technology department to make it work. And so we have kind of gotten our special ed department and technology department to work together very closely so that when the special ed department wants things, then they will come and they'll talk to us before they will purchase things, because special ed always wants iPads, at least in our district they do, and we don't do iPads. So that's a huge problem. Well, I'm of the mindset an iPad is the Cadillac of a special ed assistive technology device. It does a lot of really good stuff, but we don't do iPads in our district. So I have to help them try to trudge through what are the other things that are available, because we don't do iPads in our district. And I've used Jeff a couple of times for help with how do I find these things? What do I do? And so Jeff brought up this topic of accessible educational materials specifically for students with low vision, blind and low vision, and how are you getting your students to gain access to that material? Does anybody in the room have any experience with that other than Jeff and me? Good. What are you doing?
I'm working with Pattons right now. We've got a grant in Lawrence Township to do accessible materials across our district, and we're trying to figure out how do you cross the bridge of if every kid, if a kid has a diagnosed reading disorder of any kind, you have to find a way to accommodate that for every bit of text they come across. So we are in the middle of a pretty lengthy process of trying to solve how do we train teachers, how do we get the district compliant, how do we make it so that all of our kids that have these issues, and even some of the kids that don't have diagnosed issues that might still have various reading problems, how do we accommodate that, and how do we use technology to accommodate that? I'm just the technology voice on the committee, and it's been pretty powerful. We've been using a test, and you're probably speaking more than I can, called UPAR, to test kids out on whether or not they respond better reading text by themselves, or having text read to them with an adult voice, or using a text e-reader. And it's produced some really fascinating data where you can look at kids and, does this kid, and you'd be shocked at how many kids actually read really well with an e-reader, with the actual digital voice, not a human voice, the digital voice reading through and highlighting the text as it goes. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's getting beyond like the pencil and pen kind of thing. There's other technology that's out there. And Lawrence is really, taking the ball and run with it as far as finding those students that have a disability that can be met with other kind of devices and technology. One thing, as I was sitting here listening to the LMS, I mean, how much of that is accessible to students that have a print disability, students that have, print disabilities are blind, low vision, orthopedically handicapped, or organically handicapped, and those are students that are the organic dysfunction, are students that have maybe a TBI, severe dyslexia, those kinds of things. We're getting more and more with students that have a hearing disability. There are things that are closed captioned. Alt tagging for students that are blind and have some kind of picture that's within, I use a PowerPoint, but it could be slides, it could be anything. Are they accessible to screen readers? So those are the kinds of things that we try to have people think about. Close your eyes and see if there's a way that you can use this. Turn off your volume when you have something that's being that the video is on. Even if you're a lip reader, if there aren't lips to read, how do you get that content? So all those things are important, and I just want to take it back and really take a look at not just the mainstream, but all students. And there are a lot of students that benefit from just those supplemental things that they don't necessarily have to have a caption, but they can read along with it. So it's kind of twofold. It's sort of universal design.
Read and Write for Google is one of those. I'm like swinging the banner of Read and Write for Google right now.
I'd like to add one thing here. With the LMS talk that we did have this year, last summer I had this grant where I had teachers writing content, right, for the LMS. And thank God there were a couple of special ed teachers in there because, I would have just steamrolled right over everything. But they stopped me when I first talked about doing, for example, highlighted word. They said, well, what about kids who are colorblind? Oh, yeah, what are we going to do? So, they caught me there. Then it was like, well, don't forget to have headings and captions. They said, well, if you don't use the heading 1, heading 2 type system, the voice-activated readers will miss those. And so, stepping in at the beginning of production and getting those into our stylized sheet was important. And that's something that's going to happen over the next couple of years as people start putting content into these LMSs. They need to be aware of those steps, and it's a tough thing to get out there. But we need a stylized sheet that says here's what you're trying to do. Because the other thing I wanted was the print very large, right? I don't want tiny print. I wanted the print that was a certain size and a certain style. And those are things we have to think about and get out there in front as we develop.
Or do you have a way to increase that font if a student needs it on the fly? Those kinds of things that may be built into a screen reading system or a text-to-speech program or whatever. So again, sometimes taking a step back and closing your eyes and trying to envision or turning the sound off to really kind of get an idea of, is this accessible? Do I have a problem accessing it just, the keyboard? It's just, again, kind of being...
Harvard and MIT are just being sued because of their online accessibility, their online courses not being accessible. And at Nicole, I don't know if you heard this, Michelle, but they said that's going to be the next big lawsuit since we're doing so much online, is if we're not cognizant of making things accessible. And not freaking the teachers out so much saying everything that you already have. It's, okay, from now on, when you put stuff up there, make sure, because we're always updating everything. So not telling them, okay, everything has to. When you put something there, make sure the alt tag's there. Make sure if you're using the video, it's closed caption. And just some of those, I hate to say simple things, but can you help navigate a little bit and keep away from the lawsuits?
We have at our virtual school, we have a student who is blind, taking a fully online course. And one site that's really helped us is Cynthia Says. I've added it to the notes. But it's cool. You can type in cynthiasays.com. You can copy paste your URL in, and it'll give you, especially for image stuff, it'll let you know if it's accessible. It's kind of scary how many things are not at all, but yeah, that's been helpful for us. Might be fun just to put in like your district website and see, is your district website accessible?
The problem is, as a web designer, it's a lot of extra steps to add that in there. You've already typed in the text, you've already inserted the pictures, but then to have to then go in and put meta tags in there that tag that text on those pictures, it's an extra step that people just don't take, and that they're legally going to have to eventually.
Well, it's not just for students, for parents as well.
Yeah.
You've got parents that are visiting the website, they have access to that information also. So it's just thinking about that as you're looking for the what your LMS can do or what kind of things you would have them address.
That's one thing I learned at iNickle, and I don't know if it's different for virtual schools than it is anyone else, but you're on the hook legally for parent information as well that it's accessible, which was eye-opening.
No, we do use Canvas, but it was nice to know. I had a conversation with them the other day about some of those issues, and Canvas takes accessibility to the point that it is make or break because they do operate in so many avenues that their lead product engineer for accessibility is blind, so he lives it. So they've hired somebody who actually leads this world to be their lead engineer for developing their accessibility inside of their product. So it's really cool to see that they're that concerned. They want to take it to that next level. So.
All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. We need to discuss future meeting. We've got an April-May time frame with Lawrence Township. What do we want to discuss a date? Do you want to just talk about a date between the two of us, and we'll just throw it out there, and who can come can come? Is there anything we need to stay away from in April-May time frame? Ding, 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 ding. I don't know. Anybody know what the dates are for the iStep window?
And it's actually a 3-week window, so.
Maybe we should meet at a pool in June. And then for high school, it's back up from the 20th to the 29th of April. And then May is the 6th to the 15th.
So for a drink, like in the middle of iStep afterwards.
Sponsored by. The 30th, April 30th, May 1st, May 1st, May 5th.
It's like all the windows can end by May 15th. So I mean, that's pretty late in April, May. If we wrap your
People that LMSs know how heated this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Canvas favorited one of the tweets that Kim and I sent back and forth. So April 15th is the end, you said, of the window, or May 15th?
I have May 21st for Algebra ECA.
Yeah, like I feel like the ECAs are kind of late.
ECA goes all the way to the end of school. Ours is May.
So I want to avoid taking everybody out of the schools. Yeah, we're into June and then everybody's out of school.
But when does it start?
When does?
The window start? So April 27th is the first day for iStep Online, then ECA the after that.
So we do before that, like middle of April?
Middle of April? Like, okay, so we'll.
The 13th to the 17th in April. Is there any iRead or anything like that?
Yeah, the 16th. April 16th would be after the Google Summit. I really would be nice to come back and talk about that.
So let's do April 16th. Everybody good with that? I don't see anybody saying anything in the chat. Kind of quiet out there. So we'll do April 16th for our next meeting.
It's going to be at LACC.
It's a Lawrence.
Education. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you, and we'll get all that information sent out later. It's 12 o'clock. Thank you for coming. It was a fantastic meeting. Please make sure that you take a look at the agenda, take a look at the Hangout, and catch up on what you missed if you were not able to catch it all. Thanks for coming. See ya.
I lost my collaboration link somehow. Can you put one
For-
out on your? I got one on Teams, but I don't have. I'm not hitting
To the agenda?
Yeah. Not hitting the agenda at all.
I just put it out there on the heck listserv earlier today.
Okay.
At 8 o'clock or 8:30.
It's usually on our team thing though.
It was there too.
I know, but I'm not hitting it. I don't know if it's my old Google.
Okay, then get into the agenda. In the agenda, there's a place that says if you're not part of the team group, click here.
Yeah.
So make sure that you redo that. Tony Speldy's the one who's responsible for that, and he's really not in K-12 anymore. He's a private consultant, but he's the one who's just managed it. So we just let him.
Question. I know
Yep.
you're probably trying to get out of here and get
No
back
problem.
to school too. Are we on